Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the GDQ Hotfix. Thank you all for tuning in to the final Saturday episode of How to Train a Speedrunner. So after today's show, we're going to be moving to a Thursday evening time slot following the first step. We're going to be staying in the same week rotation, so my show is still going to be in 2 weeks. It's just going to be in 12 days instead of 14. So we'll be on Thanksgiving evening instead of 2 Saturdays from now. Except on Thanksgiving, we're not after the first step because the first step isn't happening, so we'll be taking the first step's time slot on Thanksgiving, so we'll be starting at 7 p.m. In December, however, we'll be starting after the first step on Thursdays. Before we get into our show, I do have a few quick announcements. If you've missed any of our shows on Twitch, you can go over to youtube.com/gamesdonequick, and you can watch all of the VODs there. The Frost Fatale game and volunteer submissions are going to be open from now until tomorrow. Until tomorrow. You can go to gamesdonequick.com for more information on that. And the AGDQ 2022 schedule is out. You can check the schedule at gamesdonequick.com/schedule. Now for our show, we are joined by Frozen Flygon, and we're going to be taking a journey on beautiful Celeste Mountain. How are you doing, Frozen?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Nice. Awesome. We're at the end of the week, and I'm super excited to have kind of a weekend of Celeste stuff happening on GDQ channel. So yeah, my name's Frozen Flygon. I speedrun Celeste, and I speedrun a variety of other games, but this was my first speedrun that I ever learned, and it's like the main thing that I spend a lot of time speedrunning. You may also recognize me from SGDQ. I ran a custom map titled Glyph, and I really, really love speedrunning custom maps as well. So this tutorial is kind of aimed towards people who have beaten Celeste, maybe dabbled in the B-sides and stuff like that, but have never speedrun it before and are trying to get like sub-hour in any percent. That is kind of what I'm framing this tutorial as. That's like a really good first, achievement for new speedrunners to get. And so I want to go over, we're going to be going like level by level, and I'll showcase different strats and stuff like that. But also there's a lot of setup involved in learning like how to get your speedrun ready, what keybinds that you need, and we'll be going over all of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, let me jump into a chapter and kind of just talk about all the tech names and things that I'll be talking about throughout this, so everyone's on the same page of what I'll be calling things and what the community generally calls a lot of these things. And so as you can see by my input display, I do play on keyboard, but you can play this game on keyboard or controller. It does not make a huge difference. There are top times of, both controller and on keyboard, so don't worry if you prefer. Just do the one that you are most comfortable with. I started learning this game on Switch and then switched to PC and learned on keyboard. I liked both of them. Keyboard was just a little bit more convenient for me. So first things first, how do you set your keys up? What keys should you use? And again, the answer, just like the controller versus keyboard debate, is whatever you're most comfortable with. I cannot use arrow keys to save my life. I have always used WASD, and so I use WASD for my movement because it matches how I learned on the Switch that my movement is on my left hand. And then I'll show you the rest of my keybinds. The great thing about Celeste is it's very, very easy to set keybinds and set multiple keybinds. So you've got, you can set as many keys as you want to all of these things. As you can see, I have jump on J, L, and U, and J is my primary jump button, L is my secondary jump button, and U is something it's another bind I use for a very specific trick. But yeah, I highly recommend that you bind 2 jump buttons, and we'll talk about why that is important later, but make sure it's in a place that you can comfortably jump once and then jump with your second button. I have dash on K, and I have grab on spacebar. A lot of people like grab to be like, if you're playing on controller on a shoulder button, or maybe on like a shift button or stuff like that. I've always liked mine on grab. Again, it's really up to you, and make sure your talk button is somewhere accessible to you as well. And so a very important bind that I also want to talk about is the crouch dash bind. So normal dashing, you just dash in the air, but there's also something that is colloquially known as a demo dash or a crouch dash, and it allows you to be squishy in midair like this, and you actually have a smaller hitbox, and that's used throughout the run. And so the earlier you get used to inputting a demo dash and stuff like that, the better. So my demo dash is on the semicolon key, and the way that you can set that is in your configuration. You've got advanced. This was added in the 1.4 version, which is available on both PC and Switch. I have crouch dash on my semicolon button, and also quick restart, which is, for example, if you want to restart the chapter, it pulls up this menu and allows you to restart, which is really important. Another keybind that I highly recommend that you do is whatever you set your crouch dash to, which mine is semicolon, I would put that on down and confirm as well. And I'll show you why. Because, for example, in terms of skipping cutscenes, but also quickly dying, say I'm gonna fall into this pit, you can pause and then retry. That takes a little bit of time. But say I have my pause and then my demo key has down and confirm on it, much faster. So recommend when you set up your demo dash button, also set up your quick restart button. And also, something that not everyone knows, if you press confirm when you die, the cutscene goes a lot faster. So here's without pressing confirm, do that a few times. And here is with pressing confirm, it's a lot faster. So yeah, those are some of the basic keybinds that I highly recommend setting up. And so now that we've talked about, all of the binds that I have set up, talk about our different tech names. So, obviously there's jumping and dashing and grabbing and stuff like that. The main tech that you're going to see a lot of speedrunners do is something called a hyper dash. And so you actually hold down and right, or down and left if you want to move left. You dash, and then you jump before your dash ends. And that gives you a lot of this horizontal speed to let you go over stuff like this. And it allows you to go really fast. So for example, at the beginning of Resort, you just kind of and that's why I came here, is because it's a great place to practice getting comfortable with doing a bunch of hypers in a row. Yay! And you can also do this from the air, where you jump, from midair, you do down right into the ground and then jump. And it does pretty much the same thing. And that's typically called a wave dash, just like in, Melee and stuff like that. Kind of funny. And so there's an important distinction between when you do a hyper dash and your hair is blue, kind of like you see there, and a hyper dash where your hair becomes red and you get your dash back. And we like to call that an extended hyper or an extended wave dash, where you end up getting your dash back. So say, for example, it's okay, I do this and I would fall into the pit because I didn't get my dash back. But if you wait a certain number of frames longer before jumping, it kind of feels like you're delaying and then you press the jump key. That's how you're going to get an extension. And this is actually kind of taught to you in Farewell in the wavedash.powerpoint. That the game actually teaches you how to do an extended wave dash and get your dash back. And that's really important to get a good feel for how to do that. Is to be able to, this is, again, a great place to practice. Practice getting your extension, pressing jump a little bit later than you would expect, and then dash again. So that's going to be called, an extended hyper or an extended wave dash. Those are really important. Another piece of speed tech that is super clutch is called a wall bounce. And what happened? I'm trying to find a good wall to wall bounce off. Let's do maybe this wall. This is taught in the Summit B side, where you dash up and then you jump away from the wall, and that allows you to get really high up. This isn't necessarily maybe the best place for it, but we're going to use that in a ton of places to get our vertical height and our vertical distance. You won't get your dash back because, you're not on the ground or anything, but it allows you to get a lot of height in some areas, and that's super important for us. Some other niche, more niche techniques is there are neutral jumping, which, if you climb up a wall, you will eventually run out of stamina. That can be really not helpful for us in some areas where we want to be climbing up and up and up and up, a lot further. So there's a technique called a neutral jump, where you are actually going to climb the wall you jump away with no buttons pressed, and then you go back, you hold right or hold left to get back to the wall, and then jump again. And that allows you to climb up without expending any stamina. This is definitely a technique that takes a little bit to get used to. There are a few great places that you can practice it, like in Reflection, there's the big waterfall wall. That's a great place to practice neutrals. That definitely takes a little bit to get accustomed to, but there will be a few cases where we're going to be using that, so thought it would be useful to talk about. And there's also a technique called a corner boost that allows you to kind of fly over a corner. This one took me a pretty long time to learn how to do, but again, I figured I'd showcase how to do it. So you basically, anytime you go to a corner, you have the ability to press the jump button and grab, and that's gonna fling you over the wall. So you have to be holding grab, and if you press jump as you're going over the corner, you will get a corner boost. And these are hard. I won't lie. These definitely, I'm not super 100% consistent at them, but it's, I think, helpful to kind of learn how to do them because in certain situations, it's very, very useful. So yeah, and also, I do want to say I have chat open. If you have any questions throughout this or you want me to re-explain something, like, I'm more than happy to do so. And also I have Church here to pass on any questions if I'm not like staring at the chat immediately. So Church, do you have any questions about all the stuff we just went over? Anything you think I could explain again, or all you got all the names?
Oh,
you
ready
for pop quiz?
Absolutely not. So there is extended
there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
So there's extended hypers, there's neutral jumps. There was all the other names that I lost already.
How about this one? What do you do? What do you do to go up? Do you remember that one?
No. It's
a wall bounce.
Wall bounce. Thank you.
That one's the fun name. That's a fun name. Oh, there is one more actually that you actually use in this screen. So we talked about how when you're doing a hyper or a wave dash, you're doing a down right or a down left to get the more horizontal speed. There's something called supers and super dashes, also known as a dash jump, where you don't hold any direction, you just dash and then jump. And that'll get you more horizontal, or that'll get you more vertical height. And you can also extend supers just like you extend wave dashes, and you can get your dash back. And that's actually really important in this room where we do a super, we dash into the screen transition, and then we are able to climb up to this key without going around. So there are certain situations where you want to know how to do a super instead of a hyper or a wave dash. And this room is a great example of that. So yeah. Is there any mechanic that's only possible with a controller or vice versa? No. So pretty much everything is doable with both. Certain things like feathers are arguably more easier on an analog stick than on a keyboard, but there are certain advantages of feathers on keyboard. But it's more of it's not necessarily easier or harder to do anything on controller or keyboard. It's just something to get used to. But that's a really good question.
It basically, it's whatever your preference is.
Yes, yeah. 100%. If you've been a controller player all your life, there's absolutely no need for you to try and learn this game on keyboard. Do what you're most comfortable with. There are very skilled players of both sets. So yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, I think that this opening area of Resort is a great place to practice all of these things. It's especially, getting the hang of doing a super to get up here instead of a hyper, practice. Also, your distance matters. Not every hyper or wave dash is going to be the same. You can do a short hyper where you jump a lot faster and you don't hold jump versus one where you hold jump, you go a lot wider. So get the feel of doing them at different distances. Try and get just over this instead of really far over this. Try and do a wave dash instead of a hyper. This is a really great place to practice a lot of those things. Another good place to practice is in Epilogue. You'll have 2 dashes there, so it might not be as, you'll have the pink hair and the red hair, so keep that in mind. But Epilogue is another great place. It's just a big flat area. So yeah, there we go. So that is pretty much the overall of all the keybinds and tech names that you're going to need to learn. So other kinds of setup things that are important, let me go back to the map and talk about these things. So I am currently playing on a mod loader called Everest. You can see that if I go all the way back, it says Everest here. Everest is an amazing tool. I have a link for it. Give me one sec, that you can use to download it. Everest is an incredibly amazing tool. And we also have something called the Speedrun Tool that allows you to set save states and other cool things. So you can get the Everest loader there. Keep in mind that you cannot submit runs with Everest on. This is simply a practice tool, with the exception of custom maps, because you have to have Everest to load custom maps. But let me show you what cool things that the Speedrun tool allows you to do. So in mod options, I'm gonna scroll. You also can get Catalan with the Everest Mod Loader, so very important.
The most important.
Aside, lots of amazing things. There's crow control, lots of awesome stuff here. But Speedrun Tool. So Speedrun Tool, you can time rooms and time sections. That's really helpful if you're like, oh, I want to learn a new strat or two and time it compared to what I used to do. That's awesome. You can set save states, which is probably the most important thing. So it's like, say you want to practice something from up here. I can set a save state and practice getting over here. And now when I die, the save state comes back. This is super, super helpful when practicing like specific inputs and things. And you clear the state, move to the next room. Okay, now I'm gonna practice from here, stuff like that. So I took way too long to download Everest and download the Speedrun Tool. If you're considering learning this game, please download Everest and please download the Speedrun Tool. It is a worthwhile investment. And it's so much easier than, let me go back to this chapter to practice these two rooms. Super, super recommend getting that. In addition, there's a setting in Everest. This is enabled automatically, but in vanilla Celeste, if you go into your settings file and you can say debug mode, change it from false to true. That allows you to see the debug menu, which is super radical because it also allows you to like skip into different rooms in a chapter where it's like, okay, I just want to practice, the third to last room of Oshiro. Let me skip over here and practice just this room. Again, it is just super efficient for your time to have the debug mode on. And debug mode does not invalidate speedruns. So turn it on, you can leave it forever. Super, super helpful. So yeah, highly recommend turning on debug mode as well before you start learning runs and stuff like that. Other relevant settings that I didn't quite talk about that's unrelated to keybinds that I would recommend that you do. First of all, I recommend turning on photosensitive mode. That's going to get rid of a lot of the flashing and vibrant effects that happen, specifically in like reflection is one that comes to mind, and farewell. Also screen shake. You can, if you would like to play the game with screen shake, that is totally your prerogative. For speedruns, I highly recommend turning it off. It's just gonna make anytime you dash, the screen, is gonna stay a lot more stagnant and easier to see rather than it shaking. So those are two settings that I definitely recommend: turning on photosensitive mode and turning off screen shake. Additionally, you got the speedrun clock. If you're just running a chapter, and you just want to see that, you can turn on the chapter speedrun clock. That's totally fine for individual level runs. And then the file timer, if you're doing a full game run, please, we recommend having the file timer on. So yeah, debug mode, you're not allowed, like, you can't actually use this during runs to warp places, of course, but if you have the setting enabled and you just don't hit your debug mode, which is typically tab or F6, you're good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've got for like the intro and keybinds and stuff like that. The last thing I want to touch on is that you can see before our like first little break that we're going to be taking, is you can see I have a flag next to my file that says cheat mode, and that just means that every chapter and everything is open. So I will show you all how to input the cheat code right here. So you go into prologue. Be sure to, you can skip the cutscene. First of all, you have to say hello to intro car. That's the law. And then there's the keybinds for this. I will type it in the chat if you want to like save it anywhere if you didn't know this existed. But it changes depending on what inputs you use, but it's left, right, journal, grab, up, down, left, grab, confirm. And you'll see this happen. Cheat code is used for some categories like all B-sides, all C-sides, where you have to jump straight into other chapters. And bam! The entire game is now open to you. All of the checkpoints are open to you. And yeah, if you want to do IL runs, it is totally fine if you've enabled the cheat code. It doesn't do anything for like your main practice file. That's totally fine to have it going. You just obviously can't use the cheat code for things like any percent and stuff like that. So yeah, there you go. So that is pretty much like all the things you need to do before you actually jump into a chapter. Learn the tech, get comfortable with those kinds of things, and then you can really get into the meat of understanding room by room what we're going to be doing, which is going to be the next portion. We're kind of going to go through each chapter, and I'm going to just go through and throw out some recommended strategies for beginners. You can kind of see me go through what routes we take in certain chapters, like resort, and applications of the tech that we have been using. So yeah, we're going to take a real quick break here, I think, and then we'll be back to go through all the chapters. Yay!
Yeah, we should be good to take a break. Just before we take a break, I'd just like to let everybody, remind everybody that the Frost Fatales game and volunteer submissions are open until tomorrow evening, or tomorrow night, I guess. So you can go to gamesdonequick.com for more information on that. And we have a new YouTube channel. It's called Sum of Best Segments, GDQ Sum of Best Segments. Sum is spelled S-U-M. So we have highlight videos on that channel along with our regular videos. So you can take a look at that. They're released at the same time. And besides that, we'll see you in a few minutes. We're just going to take a quick break, like Frozen was saying, just to get up, stretch your legs, get some water, you know, stuff like that. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to How to Train a Speedrunner. I don't even know the name of my own show anymore, apparently. We've got Frozen Flygon here, and she's going to teach us how to climb beautiful Celeste Mountain. Are you ready to go, Frozen?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, first little segment there, went over all the binds, settings, important things like get Everest, get the Speedrun Tool. Those are all going to be things that we're using for the rest of this. So now the second portion, basically I'm just going to take you through the speedrun and talk about, you know, what we can do in each chapter. So before we go like chapter by chapter, if you were going to ask me, what is the one trick that you should learn before you do a run? Say you just want to, you know, I just want to jump into it and see what my first time is going to be. Is there anything I should do first? Yes, there is one trick that will save you actual minutes in the run, and that's why I'm going to teach it first. And it's called Search Skip. So head on over to Mirror Temple, specifically the search segment of the game. So if you remember casually, you have to go collect some keys, and then that's how you're allowed to unlock some bubbles, you know, unlock the doors where I've been playing grabless. I need to remember that I can grab the wall. So you go on an adventure here and pick up some keys to unlock these doors, right? But there's a trick called Search Skip that's going to allow us to completely skip all of that. So first of all, you won't get lost. That's nice. And you don't have to pick up any keys. So that's going to be the first thing I teach you. So I recommend, you know, set your save state here so you can practice it. What we're going to be doing is something called a reverse. And so you can do reverse inputs. This is something I didn't super touch on in the basics tutorial. But if you dash to the left and then jump to the right, you actually can do tech such as supers or hypers in the opposite direction, even if you typically don't have enough like room to do so. And this reverse is going to be what we're going to be using here, specifically a reverse super. So we are going to dash to the right and jump to the left. And you also need to make sure you delay your jump long enough to get your dash back, because then we're going to be doing an up left dash. So let me get back here. You dash to the right, jump to the left, and be sure to up left again. As you can see, it kind of looked like I was in the you know, wiggly hitbox. You have a lot more room than you think, so don't get too scared. But yeah, highly recommend take the time to learn Search Skip. This will save you, like, from a beginner's perspective, 2 to 3 minutes probably, just in terms of like you save so much routing. You don't have to remember where the keys are. Then you can head straight to the Theo section. So, you know, dash again, I'll talk about it again. You can look at my input display. Dash to the right, jump to the left, and up left dash. Don't be afraid of the wigglers on the top or bottom. You'll be fine as long as you don't like fall too far. And then that lets you get here without getting any coins, and you can kind of go through the remainder of the level. So this is like the very first major skip that I highly recommend that you learn. Cool. So with that, now I'll kind of, you know, go chapter by chapter, starting from the beginning, because that's like the only major one that's like that sequence break is huge. And so now let's I'm gonna start from a new file and kind of just go through each chapter, talk about the different things that you can do. Celeste. Here we go. So make sure, you know, if you're starting a run, no variants, no assist mode, stuff like that. Hit the pause button here and hit your skip cutscene button, or, you know, down and confirm to skip the cutscene. So here we are in prologue. We can't dash. What you want to do in prologue, which I'm not like super good at, if I'm being honest, is you want to bunny hop like as many times as possible, because bunny hopping saves you frames. I'm sure there are experts in the chat who know how many frames exactly, but you just want to hop a lot, skip the cutscene with Granny, don't fall in that hole, and then once Madeline crosses the like kind of that big tree, you can skip the cutscene, and there is prologue. There we go. I've never like IL grinded prologue, you know, it's gonna be a few seconds either way, but get comfortable with doing a bunch of small jumps or bunny hops as much as possible, climbing up the walls efficiently and skipping the cutscenes at the right time. So it's important to go through and kind of understand how you do that. So let's go into city. Talk a little bit about how can we use our techniques to go faster here in city. 2 frames per jump. All right, thank you, knowledgeable people in chat. I was not gonna try and guess. So here's some examples of like, use your extended hypers to get you across these gaps. And I'm gonna do what's called a transition wall bounce here. Is you can actually dash up and then jump on the next screen if you want. That's kind of cool. That's gonna be useful in some spots. You know, in ARB, you do that to grab this berry, for example. Here's an example of where you'll see a lot of players do a corner boost to do that. That's a more advanced technique, but just wanted to showcase where, you know, some spots that a corner boost could be effective. You know, wall bouncing into the next room, wall bouncing up here. This is a great spot where, you know, we want to do an extended hyper and get all the way over here, save time. You don't need to go down to this platform. So this is a great spot to practice getting the feel for doing hypers. If you're finding extended hypers from the ground being difficult, wave dashing can be a bit easier for some people. So you do it from the air, and for a lot of people, the frame it is a lot easier to get your dash back. So mess around with that if you're not super comfortable with doing them from the ground. And so, you know, same thing here. You can do you can just do that and totally skip the zip mover. Here's a really funny room. So we don't need to go to the right here. What you're gonna want to do is do a wall bounce off of this wall and kind of wrap around. So there's some nuance involved with wall bouncing where I'm going to jump off the wall, hold left, and then hold right to get back up. And I'm holding grab just in case I don't make it. But typically, you know, I'll make it up pretty close to up here. So yeah, mess around with getting that wall bounce, get comfortable with doing that. Whee! And then, you know, we're just going along our merry way. This is another pretty famous room where you can go up above here and not get this crystal. This is not required by any means, but you're basically going to do we talked about reverses with search skip. You're gonna do a reverse hyper where you hold down left, you dash, and then you jump and get your extension. And that allows you to go up here. So that's a really fun room to learn. But again, if you're struggling with that, like just fall down and get the dash crystal and go this way. Not a huge deal. There you go.
Yeah, a lot of these are just the faster methods, but if you're struggling, you can just do the intended route, right? Like,
exactly. Like you can, you know, if you're struggling with wall bouncing, you can just do that. But here, you know, it's fun you do a wall bounce and then a right dash, and you get up here a little bit faster. City is one of the most optimized levels in all of Celeste. There are people who can do this in under a minute. My best is a 104, and you can really like see the higher level runs, the amazing things they do to make that happen. There's a lot of ways you can go in this room. I know the one that I was taught first is that you can just dash up to that little spot and grab and climb up. That's pretty nice. Really enjoy that. You know, here we don't want to go up. Do an extension, do your extended hyper, and get all the way to the crumble block. Saves you a lot of time from going around. But yeah, a lot of this is just, you know, doing hypers to make your movement faster. Again, here, you don't need to use this block. What we're going to do is do a wave dash off of this platform. And then, oh, I needed to, you know, held jump a little bit better. If you're not holding jump, Madeline's gonna fall. But then there you go, you can jump right up here. Most people here will do a hyper bunny hop to get across. That took me a while to get comfortable with. Like, if you're struggling, again, just grab the zip block and go. It's all about doing what techniques that you are most comfortable with. That's really the crux of Celeste speedrunning is, you know, figure out what works for you and then slowly but surely try and learn faster and faster things. This room has a really fun strat in it. So from entry, I should have actually, let me go back a room and do this from, oh, that is not the correct room. Whoopsies. Where am I? It should be this room. Let's go here. I'll set a save state before because this actually works really well from transition. So I'm going to set a save state here. You can dash to the right and do a super off of that block from entry, and then you'll end up here. And then you can grab onto this wall, and we're going to do a little, like, it's kind of a spike jump. You're actually really just jumping off that wall. You're not jumping off of the spike, but you land. If you let go from the wall, you can jump and then do a right dash to safety here. It looks a lot more tricky than it is. This one's really, really fun. So come into the room, dash, and then jump to get up here. Go to this wall, and be sure to let go of everything and then just jump off the wall, hold upright so Madeline travels, and then dash to the right or dash to the upright. And you'll be able to make it here. That's a really fun strat that is super fun. And, you know, it's obviously easier from the transition, but if you die, let me clear my save state and do it from death. You can totally still jump and then do the super. Not a huge deal. Or you can jump and do a wave dash. Either works as long as you get your dash back. Jump upright. Yay!
And
so there's a... Whoops,
so I was gonna say, so from falling there, you're not holding any buttons because it looks like that wall is lined up perfectly with the other wall?
The wall is lined up perfectly. Yep. It's so nice. Like, you literally just let go, jump, and then press your directions. So make sure you're not holding anything, you know, as you're falling down. Exactly. Then this last room can actually be really, really tricky. Has killed a lot of everyone's runs. Typically, the fastest way to do this is to go up the right side, but it does involve a corner kick, which is something a little complex. So I'll kind of just show how it goes. I'm not going to overly take a lot of time to explain this one because, first of all, I'm not super good at it. But you basically want to, what you're going to do is climb. I'm supposed to climb without activating this zip block. 1 second. There we go. You do a bunch of fast climbs, and then you're going to neutral to get onto this corner, and then you dash into the corner and jump around. And as you can see, I'm a little bit out of practice with this one. That's what you're looking to do. And the hardest part of this is that you actually, when you are dashing into the wall, you have to jump off the wall holding no directions. You have to do a neutral there. And then after you've successfully jumped, you have to like kind of circle around. So there are some better, like more specific tutorials for this that I would recommend like looking up on YouTube. Like there's, you know, they break down where you need to be on the wall and stuff like that. I did want to show it off, but this is definitely a room where for the longest time, I just went around and it's all good. You really don't lose that much time versus like dying on that like 13 times. So there we go. That's pretty much city. And if you're looking for like specific tutorials of every room, let me put my favorite any percent tutorial in the chat right now. This is Programmatic's any percent tutorial. Goes through each room, talks about the inputs that you're looking for. Often will have alternative strategies and stuff like that. So I highly recommend looking at that. If you're really like, oh, I want to learn room by room, get really good at the chapter, that's a great place. That's a great place to look. Oh, sorry, Church, I beat you to it.
It's all good.
Have it twice. There you go. So that's Forsaken City, a great place to practice a lot of the techniques that we talked about. So now we're going into Sight, which is, oh my gosh, Sight is such a fun level. The most important things that you'll want to know here. So basically, we're gonna, for the beginning of this, we're just trying to get to the cutscene where Battlein meets us as fast as possible. So just get down here, you know, break this wall. Here, this is where we want to do an extension and get to the wall. So extend your hyper, extend your wave dash, and get straight to the wall instead of climbing around. That saves, you know, saves a good amount of time. Here, this room can be a little bit tricky, but you essentially also, you do another extension and you can upright to this crystal. This is a great room to practice timing when you're dashing and also timing your distance with your extensions, especially because, you know, you don't have a ton of room, but from from where you respawn. You can do it. Oh, see, sometimes you'll bonk. So it really matters where Madeline's position is for that one. So this room is really interesting. I'm gonna set a save state. So to activate this cutscene, you have to like go away from the mirror and then come back to it, and then you can skip the cutscene. But there's a really cool skip where we'll end up inside the dream block. So if you do this normally, you know, you'll skip the cutscene and you go up here. But there's a pretty easy to learn skip where we're going to do an extended hyper and then do an up left dash kind of into the corner of this. And then we end up inside the dream block, which is very silly. I don't really understand why this happens, but your Y distance is the same, and we just get put in the middle of the room. So then you can just dash up. Ta-da! It's really not super precise. So just do an extension, up left, and bam, we're in the dream block. That time I was a lot lower. You could see Maddie's feet, which is kind of funny. But if you do that, you'll end up in the dream block, and there you go. Kind of fun. Kind of little fun checkpoint skip that saves, or cutscene skip that saves a little bit of time. And the important thing that you're taught if you've ever played Old Site B-Side is that you can jump out of dream blocks. That is really important in the speedrun, is that basically you want to be jumping out of dream blocks almost all the time, because that's going to help you get distance. And so now that we've activated the dream blocks, you want to go up and to the left where we're going to fight Madeline. So yeah, jumping out of dream blocks is super important. We're gonna diagonally go through here.
I didn't even know you could not jump out of them.
Yes, you can not jump out of them, but it is helpful to jump out of them. So now we've got Madeline, and Madeline's gonna be chasing us. The most important thing is just keep moving forward. If you screw up your intended strat or anything like that, just keep moving away from Madeline. She'll always copy what you're doing, and as long as you don't sit around and freeze, you know, you can kind of stay out of her way and not die here. Pretty interesting thing here. Basically, you want to do if you do an up left dash at the right place, which is about here, you can hold on to this, scoot up, and you can just do an up left. That's kind of fun. The way I set it up is I do a wave dash at the beginning of the room and then do an up left, but you know, you can just kind of walk over and do an up left and jump depending on your height. I forget how to set it up without the wave dash at the beginning of the room, but then you can climb up and do an up left. So that saves a little bit of time. You can do an up right here, even though it looks like you can't. And then the really cool thing about this room is you can actually do, coming out of the stream block, you can do a wall bounce up and right out of the room. Whoops, I was not in the right spot there. You want to be all the way over here to do this upright, and then you can kind of wall bounce out of the room. Pretty neat. Just getting over to this coin, making sure you dash over Madeline. Okay, this next room, I'm gonna set a save state. You basically, there's a few different ways to do this, but the easiest way I've found is you want to do a wall bounce through the transition here. So dash up and then jump as you get to the next room. Then you'll end up here. Ta-da! And from here, you can just dash up to this coin. Saves a little bit of time from having to go into the dream block, because I have my dash because I dashed on the previous screen. And every time you transition screens, you'll get your dash back. So that's kind of fun. You know, and if you struggle with that, what you can also do is you can jump here and then jump onto the spike if you're having trouble getting the transition wall bounce. Those are some options that you have. So let me restart from the beginning, and I'll kind of show. Oh, I want to restart from the previous room. I think it's, yeah, it's this room. Okay, I'll show you. Also, thank you to everyone who's been answering questions in the chat while I've been like focusing on going room by room. Okay, so I missed it, but that's okay. I'm gonna go over to the side, then I can go here. Ta-da! You'll see a lot of people do an extended hyper from the top left coin, and that is faster, but I find that it's pretty difficult to do, to get the hang of. But that is, you also can do that. You know, you just got to be careful not to bonk and stuff like that. Just kind of going away from battling here. This room can be pretty tricky, for sure. So basically, grab this coin, and you can grab this wall and then dash down and get out of Madeline's way. All right, this room is very famous. It's really long and can be pretty strenuous if you don't have a plan coming into it. So the most important part here is have a plan for what you're going to be doing in this room. There's a secret shortcut that we're going to be taking. So what I'm going to be you go into this wall and you dash left, and that takes you to this little shortcut. And then from there, you can kind of just fall down, make sure you're avoiding the spikes, and then make sure you're going in between battle. And there I went a little late. But head on over to this little shortcut, and then you'll get a feel for where you need to be holding left and right around there. And grab these coins. Be sure to dash in between where Battle-In is, and then it won't be a problem because you're going a lot faster than Battle-In is. So again, just to have a plan, know what you're going to be doing, and then Battle-In leaves you alone for the rest of the chapter. Yay! So from here, this is where the chapter gets really, really fun. You're basically just going to want to dash and jump throughout all these blocks. Just whee! And try and just keep hypering over and over again. This is a great place to practice hypers of different heights. Skip the cutscene. This is known as Awake. There's some really amazing optimizations with Awake once you learn more advanced tech like ultras and stuff like that. But basically, just hyper your way to victory here. Wee, hi Theo. Be sure to okay, we're gonna up right here so we get on top of that block. Then we're gonna hyper. You want to try and figure out a pattern where you won't hit any of the springs. And there's Old Site. Really fun chapter. Pretty chill. Very, very chill. It's a good time.
That level didn't seem too bad.
Mm-mm. No, it's a great one to start with. City has a ton of there are a few spots that are pretty tough. Site is just getting comfortable with the rooms, getting comfortable with which room is coming next, how to avoid battling and stuff like that. But yeah, old Site's really fun. And then we get to Resort. This is where the run really picks up. So talk a little bit about cycles. So there's obstacles in here like dust bunnies that when you enter the room, that's, we'll refer to that as entry cycle. And we also have something called death cycle. And those are different. When you enter a room and when you die in a room, the pattern of the enemies will be different. Like, for example, oh, that one started down, but if I die, it's going to be in a different spot. So you have to be cognizant of when you're practicing, be sure to practice both the entry cycle and the death cycle until you get really, really comfortable with going between rooms and you can kind of just prioritize the entry cycle. Stuff like that. So here's the room we talked about supers. So you kind of want to stand on this before this snow puff. And you want to do a super, be sure to extend it. So jump a little bit late and then upright into the transition. You'll then get your dash back, upright again, and you can climb up to the key. There we go. And that way you don't have to climb around. Great place to practice your super distance. So here's where we're gonna start needing our talk button. You want to be really sure that you hit the talk button before you skip the cutscene. Otherwise, you'll just die and get teleported back to the beginning of the room. So you kind of get in a rhythm of knowing, oh, I actually hit the talk button and I'm in the right window to actually be able to talk to Oshira. This room can be really frustrating. So what I recommend that you do, get to this spot and set your save state. This is where you're gonna be practicing doing a extended hyper with good timing. So you basically want to do it as this dust bunny. The dust bunny that's right in front of you is actually kind of where it is now in the pause sequence. So ta-da! And then you'll dash to this platform and do another hyper. You'll get comfortable with the timing on this one the more you do it. A lot of times you'll get this berry. It's a cool berry. It's a friend. No big deal.
Berry.
If you hold down on these platforms, they'll go down faster. Fun fact. So that can be helpful sometimes. Here we're just, trying to avoid the cycles. Grabbing the key. If you dash when you're on a dash crystal, you'll get your dash right back. So you could see I right dashed and then upright dashed, and that was the fastest way to get to this door. This room is really interesting. So what I recommend that you do is you can do a hyper through this room. So dash and then jump, and then you can upright again. Again, this is when you get more and more comfortable with knowing what room is next. There's a lot of times where you walk into a room and you're like, oh shoot, I was supposed to do a hyper there. That's okay. keep moving. Not a huge deal. So then again, you're gonna do an extension, get to this wall, and here you go. So from the beginning, oh, see, I didn't get my extension there, because usually I do it from before here. And you can even go underneath it if you're really confident with extending your hyper very long. You can, you know, if you're not confident, you can always dash to this block, not a huge time loss, but you can make it all the way over here, which is pretty cool. And then you're gonna skip this cutscene. There's a lot of cutscene skips in this chapter. You want to be ready and know exactly where they are. Here, you know, just the wigglies mean you can't go back on that space once you've been there before, so you want to be cognizant of where you've traveled. Okay, this room is very famously annoying. So I guess I'll set a save state. I can do it when I'm in the room. So what I recommend that you do is that you can get to this platform and do an extension just once and get all the way up to the wall. Not the fastest thing that you can do in this room, but I think it's one of the safer things. So you can just extend all the way over to the wall. You just got to make sure, you know, you're doing it at a time where you're not going to get totally owned by the dust bunny. So just be cognizant of where that last dust bunny is going to be. This room's pretty straightforward. From here, you can actually do an extended hyper and go underneath both of these things, which is fun. You don't need to get the springs here at all, fun fact. So if you do this correctly, you can go here, here, fall down and get this coin, and go here. And you also want to land on this because then you'll get your dash back and you can dash down. This room can be pretty tricky, so you're gonna want to hold down here and you're gonna actually do an extended hyper off of this block as it's going down. And like I mentioned earlier, holding down makes the platform go faster, so be ready for that. When you're holding down left, it's going to go down a bit faster than you're expecting. But do an extended hyper to the left, up left dash, and make it to victory. Now I've got the key. So yeah, Resort Start has a lot of pretty complex rooms and a lot of cycles to worry about, but the more that you play them, you'll get more and more comfortable. Resort is absolutely one of those chapters that is really hard at first, but gets more and more fun as you get comfortable.
Yeah, once you get a few, you know, practice levels in, you get used to it. More familiar with the tech and the cycles.
Yeah. It gets really fun. It gets really, really fun. So here, you basically just want to be dashing as much as possible in places, travel quickly to get to Mr. Oshiro. So knowing where Oshiro is like half the battle of Huge Mess. So for any percent, first of all, be very careful to talk to Oshiro before skipping the cutscene. I'll show you what happens if you don't do that. So let me go skip the cutscene first before talking to Mr. Oshiro. So if you don't hit the talk button, you don't activate the cutscene, and therefore, this has happened to very many speedrunners. You're back here, and that is sad.
Oh my God. That must be so painful in a run.
It is very painful. I've done it in many runs before, so you do not want to do that. Make sure you actually talk to Mr. Oshiro and then skip the cutscene.
And so, if you do mess up during a run, just keep going. It's not the end of the world.
Yes, keep going. It's gonna be okay, unless you're like, you know, doing really high level resets. It's going to be all right for your first couple of runs. Don't sweat about it. So if you remember playing this casually, there's 3 different routes that you can take. There's books in the top, there's towels in the middle, and there's chests in the bottom right. For any percent, we are going to want to go in the order of chests, and then books, and then towels, because that is the order that is going to help us get to Oshiro as fast as possible, because his place is always predetermined. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the right order. I've been playing a lot of ARB, so I want to make sure I'm not saying anything incorrectly.
For people who don't know what you just said, what is that?
Basically, we're gonna go down right, up right, middle.
No, sorry, the category I meant.
Oh, ARB is all red berries.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
I've been doing a lot of berry stuff. And the funny thing about the berries is that you actually get the heart in this chapter, so it changes your routing a little bit. Okay, so this room has a pretty fun spike jump, or, you know, you're actually just kicking off the wall, but it looks like a spike jump. So when you're traveling in the same direction as spikes, they can't kill you.
Oh.
And so you can jump off of this wall, actually, and that's gonna allow us to get up here. Da, 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 da. And so this is why we like to have a second jump button. You're going to jump and hold that jump button, and then with your other jump button, jump again as you get to the wall. So hold left, jump, and then jump again. Ta-da! And then you can hold grab and make it up here. So this is one of the applications of having your second jump button. You can do it with just one, but you have to, like, you know, mash jump at the right time, and like I don't even think I can do it with just one. So I highly recommend get your second jump button in a comfortable spot. And there's our first section. Boop. Clears away some of our obstacles. And now Oshiro's near us. This is why we take that path first. It's because Oshiro's going to end up over here. It's the fastest way for us to get to him. Again, make sure you talk and then skip the cutscene. And then head to the top right. Da, 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 da. So the chests have been moved away. We're now going to go to books, which is in the top right. You can just like hyper from there and skip having to go on the floor at alt here. This room can be really frustrating. Make sure you know, just find a good way to get through there. You can do a wall bounce up here, which is really helpful. So what I recommend that you do, you can do an extension into here, and that just allows you to get on this wall, and you don't have to touch the right section at all. I'll show that again. Oh, I didn't clear my save state.
Whoops.
Get good at clearing your save states. I am still bad at it. So will this mess up? Like, let me hit the button actually. I'm gonna hit the button. Old mess can be kind of funky. Old mess, huge mess can be kind of funky. So I'm just gonna head back up to books. Not clearing a save state is just a speedrunner moment. There we go. I'm in the right spot now. That's good. There we go. All right, we're good.
Clearly, it was just to show the rooms off again, right?
Yeah, of course. So do an extension, left dash here, then you can get to the dash crystal and go. So you don't even have to touch the whole right side if you do that. And that's, like, you know, the amount of times talking about using your extension and getting your dash back, that's going to be something you want to practice and get very, very comfortable with as much as possible. So now here is Oshiro again, and then we're going to head to the last one, which is in the middle. It's kind of top middle-ish. You're going to skip this cutscene with Theo. Oh, hey. All right, this room can be really, really annoying. So when you enter, you want to do a hyper immediately. That's going to get this cycle working. And again, entry cycle and death cycle are different. So if you find that you die here and you're getting really, really stuck because it's like, oh, it's not working. I don't know why this strat isn't working. Don't be afraid to move back and reset the room. That's okay. So you'll do a hyper, and then you'll wait a little bit, and then do another hyper. On entry, that will always work for you. And if you're getting stuck, don't be afraid to screen transition and reset up entry cycle. That's totally okay. This room is really interesting. You're gonna do a wave dash off of this first platform, and then you can dash down to victory. Pretty nice, not bad. This room, if you do on entry, it's really funny. You can just simply walk to the left, and you won't die. Just walk. Don't dash. Just walk to the left and you'll be good. Pretty nice. There's a few different ways to do this, but what I recommend is kind of stand inside this waterfall so you can dash left and you'll get your dash back, because then you can dash right. So dash left, dash right, and then, you know, figure out a good way that you'd like to get out of that room. There's a few different ways that you can do it. Whatever's the most comfortable for you. And that was towels. And now we're done. So we've done all 3 sections of Huge Mess. We got to grab this key in the middle. So you can just hyper across to this key, jump. And here's Oshiro again. So hyper into him, skip the cutscene, and now we're in this next section. There's some fun stuff in this part. The elevator shafts can be really stressful, but what I recommend is, do a wall bounce so you climb as much as possible, and then if you go back and forth, stamina won't be a huge issue for you. Just be confident, keep moving, and you'll be good. This room is pretty funny. I didn't quite do it correctly, but you want to up left and then up. You can do 2 up lefts, and it looks like the dust bunny will kill you, but it won't. Then you can do 2 up lefts again. This room is very long. Pretty much just try and do whatever you can to not die here. Just try and get through this room in the way that's the most comfortable for you. So you can... Here, once you left dash and hit the crystal, you kind of got to canoodle Madeline in like a little curve. So be aware that you got to move to the right, and then you can dash to the left to safety. And now we're coming up to a pretty infamous strat called the demo, the resort demo. We're gonna skip this cutscene. So there's kind of 2 ways that you can go from here. You can go the traditional route of you go down here, go to the left, and do the quad hyper room, which I'll show off that as an option because that's, typically how you would do this. So it's called the quad hyper room because you literally can do 1, 2, 3. If I do this 1, 2, 3, 4, and you will get to the key. And then from here, you can reset and you're at the beginning of the room and you keep the key with you. This can be pretty challenging. I also don't do it very often, which is why I keep dying on the timing because I don't actually know the proper timing anymore. But doing those 4 hypers in a row can be pretty difficult. And it's also slower than the other technique I'll talk about briefly called the demo dash. So let me get back to that room here. So when you're practicing demo dash, you want to take this checkpoint because if you don't, you're gonna have to start all the way at the far end of the room. But there's images and tutorials and things of how this works. I'm not an expert on this. I kind of just know how to do it. But essentially what's gonna happen is I'm gonna grab the wall, go up 1 pixel on the wall, do a full height jump. And when Madeline is at the peak of her jump, I will input, I'm gonna do a tap left and input my demo dash, which is my semicolon key. And I'm a little out of practice, so we'll see how it goes. So yeah, there I believe I did not hit the left button early enough. There I was a little bit low. That's what you want to see happen. So yeah, there's a 1 pixel setup, a 2 pixel setup. There's a lot of nuance that goes into this. If you're interested, I recommend that you ask questions in the Celeste Discord. They have a lot of specifics there. I just wanted to show it because I know it's something that people are curious about and kind of how it works. Oops, I didn't mean to hit. If you hit the tilde key when you're in debug, you can see hitboxes. And so you can kind of see that, oh yeah, there's a space. And that's how we were able to demo dash through it. Is this easier to play with the keyboard? It depends on you. Some people like controller and some people like keyboard. I personally prefer keyboard because I feel that it's easier for me to be specific with directions. This is another long room. Try and just do whatever you can to get through this without dying. And now we get into Oshiro. So yeah, I originally played on Switch, played on controller, and then I swapped to keyboard, so. Totally your preference. Totally your preference. All right, so here's Oshiro. Oshiro is another great example of just keep moving, just like with battling. So, use your hypers. Like here, you can use an extended hyper to make it instead of going down to that spring, stuff like that. You're gonna do that again here. You can do an extended hyper. If you're finding that doing a hyper on this surface is hard because it's kind of short, you can do a wave dash. That's gonna make it a little bit easier on shorter situations. Can hyper here, hyper here. A lot of these rooms get much, much easier with practice. And I find that since I learned how to speedrun and learned how to hyper, the Oshiro section got way more fun and a lot, just a lot more less painful. Gotta make sure you hit this coin. Can do 2 uprights here. Try and get out. Oh, Oshiro's gonna get me, so tried to avoid that. If you go fast enough, you can do a right dash over that dust bunny. Not a huge deal. This room, you can actually skip this first spring if you want to. You can do a hyper dash and then a bunny hop over it. if you want to practice that. If you're having trouble with it, it's not a big deal, but kind of a fun strat and gets you comfortable with hyper bunny hops. And you know, by bunny hop, we just mean jump. it's just a hyper jump, but conventionally people will say hyper bunny hop. For like, I'm gonna do another one here, hyper bunny hop into the crystal, but you also can just hyper into the crystal. It's not a big deal. You want to right dash a bunch, and if a shear is gonna hit you, you can upright and avoid. And here is one of the really hard rooms of Resort, right? And so this is one of the ones you're going to want to have a plan, devise how you're going to get through here. And also, if you die, what's going to be your backup plan? I'm not going to be like, this is the way that you should do this, because there's a ton of different ways that you can, but usually I try and aim for hypering off of like that, for instance. I go down here, do an extension through, you know, that dust bunny cloud. From here, I do 2 hypers, get to the end. There's really no perfect or one way to do that room. The most important thing about that room is to try not to die. And that is Resort.
Yeah, so the long sections seem to be a lot about just whatever is the most comfortable. Well, I guess all of this is whatever's the most comfortable for you, but
yeah,
it's more important on those ones.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the epitome of like speedrunning in this game in general, is like the priority should always be, you know, your comfort and where your skill level is at versus trying to push strats that will frustrate you or that you will die a lot on. Like, you lose a lot of time for every death. And so it's absolutely a balance of like, okay, I'm trying to upgrade my strats a little bit to save another minute, to save another 30 seconds. Or it's like, okay, actually, I just need to bring my death count down. I just need to play these rooms more. And that's always a balance. I go through periods of like, oh, I feel really good with these strats. Let me just practice them a bunch and bring my deaths down, get a PB. Or, oh, I'm kind of at the peak of what time I can get with these strats. I need to go watch some videos. I need to go ask questions to a few people of where I can really find areas to improve. And so to get sub-hour, it's a balance of what strats do you feel comfortable with? Are you comfortable with the tech? And then also, are you getting through rooms without taking, you know, multiple deaths? So, yeah. So yeah, here we go. Let's go into Ridge. Awesome. So we've now got clouds. Clouds are kind of funky because you can jump so much later than you expect on the cloud. You're like, oh, I'm on the cloud, let me jump. And, you know, I'm getting like, you know, middle height, moderate height. But then if you can wait a lot longer than you think, and you will get really high jumps. So clouds are kind of something you definitely have to get used to. And you can also do tech off of clouds. For example, I just did a super off of the cloud. You can do a hyper off of a cloud. And the timings for those are very interesting. So yeah, something to get used to. Bubbles! This is our first encounter with bubbles. You know, bubbles will take you in whatever direction you're holding once you jump into the bubble, and they give you your dash back. Something that you might not know is there's a technique called fast bubbling, where if you jump into a bubble and press the dash button, you will activate it instantly. And that saves a lot of time over the course of the run. Like, for example, okay, I'm gonna get into this bubble, then I'm gonna upright, versus I'm gonna fast bubble upright. Saves a lot of time. And this is true for both these green bubbles and the red bubbles. So you can try and get comfortable with fast bubbling, absolutely. There's a kind of silly technique here that I don't recommend that you learn yet, but it looks cool if I can actually get it right. There we go. You do a reverse into an ultra. An ultra, I haven't really talked about yet, but I will here. So I'm gonna set a save state here. Ultras are pretty niche tech that if you're doing a extended hyper, extended wave dash, and then you dash to the right again, you will do something called an ultra. And if you jump, you will get a lot of speed, 1.2 times speed, I believe, to be exact. So ultras are definitely something to get accustomed to, the timing, but that's gonna allow you to get a lot of speed. And you have to have enough like distance to the ground to actually allow you to get an ultra. So this is like a brilliant example of where you can do one. You can try and aim for this block, do a downright dash. So I'm doing an extension, then I downright dash, then I jump. This is a great place to practice ultras. but they're by no means a requirement for sub-hour, but they are really fun and really cool if you want to mess around with them. So great example of like, you know, we're going to just be fast bubbling a lot. Whoops, I meant to right dash. And I meant to clear my save state. Here we go. And wind, if you are dashing into the wind, you will have a lot better of a time because it kind of helps fight the wind resistance. So, you know, keep dashing, keep moving. You'll find that wind will not be as difficult as it was when you played this game casually because you're going to hopefully just be doing tech like the whole time. Yeah, save states are something called the Speedrun Tool. I'll give me a second, and or actually, Church, if you don't mind putting the Everest Mod Loader and the Speedrun Tool in the chat. Everest is an external program, and Speedrun Tool with the save states is what allows you to do that. So, good question. It's here in my mod settings. I have a lot of mods. Don't worry. But yeah, this is the Speedrun Tool, and that's how I'm using the save states and stuff. Cool. Here, you don't have to climb up. You can actually just, if you time it correctly, you can jump underneath that spike. If that's a bit scary, you know, don't feel bad about climbing up and around. Here's where you want to, you know, be careful about your height on these clouds. Here, you can just spam jump. I'm spamming both of my jump buttons because the wind is pushing you against the wall, and you can one cycle this. So as you come into the room, just start spamming both your jump buttons. No directions, and you'll just fly up that wall. Very funny. Okay, this is another little spike jump thing, corner jump, you know, all that good stuff. You can, if you jump against the wall and then hold left and jump again with your other jump button, you can get a little boost off this corner, and that allows you to jump up here, and you can skip having to take the block up. So definitely something worth practicing. You jump against the wall, hold left and jump again with your second jump button, and you can just get up here. Super neat. This room's pretty fun. So from here, you have to do, if you do a wall bounce, you can actually do a wall bounce off of that wall. It looks like you're kind of wall bouncing off of the spikes, but you're not. You're kind of just underneath them. You unfortunately can't do this from the ground. So if you miss it, you do have to like fall back and then try again. But not a huge deal if you know, you miss it. You can take the block. It's always worth trying on your way in, you know? So you dash up, jump when you reach the next room, and then do another wall bounce up. A lot of these strats are worth trying on your first try. If you don't get them, you can take the casual path. All good. Here you can do the same kind of thing. You can just wall bounce, wall bounce. Oh, I missed the wall bounce and I did not clear the state. I already knew that that was gonna happen. Show it again. So you can go wee, wee. Oops, I didn't quite do that correctly, but that's okay. And so you don't actually need to, you know, you don't actually need to activate these blocks, which is kind of nice. I'm supposed to fall down, and then, there we go. This room has a lot of strats of varying difficulty. The one that I would recommend for beginners is, so you ride this block over, you move it down, move it up, and then get this block to be on the ground that you see with this brown. And so what you're going to do is do an extended hyper when Madeline gets to like the second pink rock. So go here, hyper, and the block gives you extra speed and you can get all the way over here, which is really fun. So I'll show that again. Pink rock, extended hyper, and be sure to upright to the wall and be holding grab. Yay! There's a lot of different things you can do, but I think this is the safest one and not too strenuous. A lot of other things you can do, like there's ultras and stuff, but there's a corner pop that people do. I think this is the move though for many entry players. Yeah, and I mean, you're totally right that you can get sub-hour without knowing any tricks by just playing the game again and dying less. But if you want to keep pushing yourself, if you want to keep going past sub-hour, it's absolutely worth the investment of learning the more advanced movement. And that's why I'm going through with this, like, sub-hour and beyond. Like, and also it's a balance between, like, you know, I'm gonna go for more aggressive strats but die a little bit more, or I'm not gonna use speed tech at all, you know. But I think it's fun to learn things that are fast.
Yo, for sure.
That's why I love speedrunning, right? Is learning, going fast is really fun.
But in order to get to the fast stuff, you need to have the building blocks, like.
Absolutely. So these rooms are mostly just, you know, remember to fast bubble. This room is where you're going to first try and like you need to do a extended hyper off of this cloud. That can be a bit tricky, but so you do an extended hyper upright. Be sure to land left enough on the cloud. If you're too far right, you won't have enough ground, well, enough cloud to actually get your dash back. So be really careful with your positioning. And then you can upright again. And that way you can get out of this room. It's been so long since I've actually gone up to where that flag is, because I just always take the cloud over. I'm like, oh yeah, there's like a platform there. But here is, you know, you can do this is another place if you want to practice a reverse hyper, because if you try and do an extended hyper this way, you don't have enough distance. So you're gonna dash down left and then right, jump right, and that's gonna allow you to get all the way over here. And you can do that again to get all the way to the bubble. Yay! So reverses are really useful in many situations. Here, just gonna activate this block. Head on up right. Ta-da! There are ways to skip this block too. You can skip the first and second block, and those techniques are creatively known as first blockless and second blockless. But I do not recommend those. I also don't go for those, and I have a 32 in this game. So do what you like to do, but those are definitely not needed for entry level runs. Oh, I missed the block. You wanna not use too much stamina here. So you can jump if you jump without holding any grab, you won't use any stamina, and that way you can get here without it being too much trouble. And you can wall bounce off that wall to help you climb up a little bit faster. All right, this room is really peculiar. The wind cycle here is awful. So I recommend get up here, wait until the wind is not going, and then it'll be able to go when you get there. So I'll show that room again. Climb up here. Once the wind goes is when you'll jump and get to this wall. When the wind stops, you can go to these two bubbles. Then you can dash up twice and climb out of the room. It's really easy to not have enough stamina there, so be careful. If you're running out of stamina, you can jump left and right and you'll be okay. Stuff like that.
Is the wind on entrance death cycles as well, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I believe that, you know, when you come to this room, the wind's always going to be going, and then it's still going to be going, but if you're coming into the room, you can potentially have, you know, momentum to take you to this spring. Okay. If you're at death, you're always going to, you know, not have any momentum. But yeah, it's something to be considerate about, of like how you're entering this room can definitely change how long you need to wait and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a good point. Woo. All right, now we're at the last checkpoint of Ridge. The wind starts to get really, really heavy here. I recommend for this room, you can, there's gonna be a lot of wind, right? So try and come into this room with a little bit of speed, and that way you can, let me show you what I mean. Kind of near the end of this room, you come into this with speed, you can do you can do a hyper off of these blocks, and then you can do another hyper and then climb up. That room can be really frustrating sometimes. There's a few different ways to do this room. The safest way, I meant to take the bubble, but here we are. You know, you can do this room normally. You can actually get ahead of this block, but it's a little tight. So I recommend to start, just focus on, you know, don't worry about getting ahead of this block. It's not a huge time difference. And now we start to see snowballs. Snowballs are absolutely dependent on when you come to the room. And so you kind of want to be in a place where you have a plan, and you're going to get through the room without the snowball killing you. So coming into this room, you know, try and get into the bubble quickly. Try and just be hypering through and really be cognizant of where the snowball is going to be. Like there, it was like, oh, the snowball is going to get me. I'm going to wait a second. If you wait too long here, you know, the snowball is going to come and get you. So you want to try and just travel quickly so that the snowball is not going to hit you in the face.
Do you know how long roughly in between those it is? Like 5 seconds?
I don't actually know. I don't think it's 5. I guess we can test it. Let's see.
That's true.
Wait, are you going to come for me? Are you going to come for me, Bubble? Bubble. Okay. Looks like 2 or 3, I think.
Okay. Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So this room, just if you just keep dashing right to the springs, you'll survive. Doing hypers here is huge, right? Because you're able to just skip so many of these platforms. And sometimes if you jump on top of the snowball, it'll help you out, which is awesome. You just want to be aware of, like, it's really common to get to the end of the room and then just get totally nailed by a snowball, which is really, really unfortunate. Oh, I meant to get in that bubble. Again, you know, be fast bubbling here. Stuff like that. If you jump on crumble blocks, they will crumble faster. So, for example, I'll show you the difference. If you just wait here and then fall, versus if you climb into this bubble and jump and then fall, it's much faster. So highly recommend you jump there. And this last room's really fun. Do some hypers and get into the bubbles. And you definitely don't need that berry, but it's fun. And there's Ridge. Ridge is like incredibly hard to optimize. Try and find what strategies work for you, but basically hyper against the wind really, really helps. Be careful with the snowballs. Get comfortable with jumping off clouds at different heights and stuff like that. Yay. Good stuff. All right, how are we doing on time?
We're at 53 minutes, about 53 and a half. 53
minutes, okay. So we still have plenty of time.
Oh.
All right, great. Because we're getting to these chapters are starting to get longer and longer, especially Summit is going to take a while. Yeah, the VOD will be on YouTube. You'll be able to check that out. I'm really glad that people are enjoying it. I think Celeste was my first speed game. It's really accessible. The community is amazing. Like, don't be afraid to ask questions. The only reason I've been speedrunning Celeste for almost 2 years now, if not 2 years. Because the people are amazing. They're always willing to answer questions. The speedrun help channel in Discord is amazing. There's some really qualified people, much more qualified than even myself, to answer the high level questions and the specifics. So yeah, if you're interested in joining the Celeste Discord, I have the link here and I'm in there. You can say hi. I'm actually a speedrun verifier, so I might see your run if you choose to do so. And at the end of this, I'm going to talk about what do you need to do to submit a run to the leaderboards and what categories there are. So I'll be going over that at the end of this run too. So let's go into Temple. So we talked about Temple a little bit earlier with Search Skip. I'll go over it again for people who, may be coming in now. So first, right off the bat, you skip a cutscene because we don't have time to talk to you, Theo. Sorry.
Sorry, Theo.
Sorry, Theo. I'll see you next time when you're in a crystal. So this room's pretty fun. I should talk about this room. From here, you'll want to wait. I need to remember how to do this room. So you come into here. Oh, okay. You can jump. If you jump off of here, you can do a midair super. I know that sounds fancy, but I promise it's not that scary. Kind of like in that near the end of City, where you do a super off of a block. You're just gonna dash and then jump, and that takes you all the way to this block. And then you can do a hyper, and you'll get to the end of that room. It looks really fancy. Promise it's not that scary. So from here, we're gonna just want to go straight up right. We don't want to mess around with any of these barrier rooms and stuff like that. So typically, casually, you have to go all the way to the left and take a bubble and go to the right. We're not gonna do that. So set your save state up here to practice this. You're gonna do a wave dash off of this little stump, and you can dash down once you get here to make sure you're not gonna slide into the spikes. Dashing down cancels your momentum, because see, if you just do this, you're gonna slide into the spikes. So I recommend down dash, and then from here, the safest way is to do a reverse hyper to the right. And so you're going to hold down left, dash down left, and jump right. And that's gonna help you get over there. And you also need to dash again. Boop. And that's how you'll get to here. You also can do it with 2 wave dashes like that. It can be a little tight. So whatever's more comfortable for you. If you're more comfortable with the reverse, that's neat. If you're more comfortable with just doing 2 in a row, that's fine too. But that's how we get here without using the bubble. You have to kill a little bit of time if you fast bubble before the cycle of these. So just be a little bit careful for that. And be sure to fast bubble all these things and get the key, and we're heading down right. I'm gonna clear my save state. I remembered. Here's Theo again. Skip that cutscene. Snag this button. And I'm gonna go up. And this is a room that's pretty famous for a strategy called Depth's Corner Boost, or DCB. I'm not consistent at it at all. You don't need to be consistent at it at all for a sub hour, but it's fun. And I'm gonna just briefly show how it works because I think it's cool. And even if you get the first part of it and not the actual corner boost, it's still worthwhile. So basically, I'm gonna set my save state. If you jump up left, you can get to this block and climb on top of it. And then past that, you're going to do a hyper to the right as it retracts. And that's gonna allow you to get some speed. I wasn't holding jump long enough, but see, I flew across the room, which was awesome. But what we're really trying to do is you see this platform right here? You wanna jump off of this platform, and that's gonna help us get upright. So I'll show you. See there, I didn't hold jump long enough. Same. Ta-da! I usually do it with a reverse. So you might have seen me, I down lefted first. You don't have to do it with the reverse, but then you jump off of there, dash up right, and you get all the way here, which is where we're trying to go. So that's a really fun strat. And the second half of the strat is to do a corner boost on this corner and fly into the next room. That's really, really tough. It's worth going for if you understand how corner boosts work. Don't stress about it though. Getting the first half of it is fun enough, honestly. And even if you miss it like that, I dashed a little bit late, you can land right on this platform and get up. So it's worth going for. It's fun. Why not? I thought it was worth showing off. You can dash down, grab this block, fall, and up right. Oh, I didn't fall far enough. My bad. Yeah, I preferred reversing on Depth's Corner Boost as well, but it's not everyone's cup of tea. So there's two routes that you can take in any percent. You can play 5A, which is continuing on in this chapter, or you can go down here and play 5B. If you're planning on seriously running this game to like sub 40 territory or higher, I highly recommend playing 5B because it is much faster, especially with a technique called Bobstrap. I'm not going to be going over 5B in this tutorial because this is meant for sub hour and you definitely don't need to play 5B for sub hour, but there are amazing tutorials out there for room by room of 5B if you're interested in running this game seriously. And if you do that, you go down here, grab the cassette, and play Temple B side. So instead, we're gonna play the A side, so just keep traveling to the right. And you might be thinking, don't you need a key? The funny thing is you don't need a key. If you've gotten the heart in this chapter, you know that you actually need to smuggle a key past that door. There's a bubble in this. So what you'll do is take this first bubble to the right and immediately go in this next bubble. 1, 2. It's in the second one on your way back left. And that allows you to go up here, and you don't need to grab a key. Saves us a lot of time. This room is really long and really scary, so just get comfortable with being patient on these cycles. So be sure to go and fast bubble, when at a time when these things are not going to kill you. But yeah, that room's really long. If you die at any point during it, you have to go all the way back to the left, so just find something that's comfortable for you. Yeah, like I play 5B in any percent. I play 5B in a category called True Ending. Definitely worth a time investment if you plan on running this game long term, but don't stress about it for your first couple of runs. 5A is more than fine. Now we've got the secret section. What you pretty much want to do here is just dash as much as possible and try not to bonk. Find a method that gets you through these blocks. And the most important part of this secret section is once you hit Madeline, press the confirm button, and I'll show you the difference. This is gonna be me not pressing confirm. Okay, that took a while, right? So much faster. So much faster. Please press the confirm button. I've had this yelled at me when I played bingo, because I don't play 5A very often. Press confirm. it's worth it. I promise. So I also have confirm on my demo dash button because that's my cutscene skip button, so I usually just mash demo. Yeah, confirm press is very important. I see the Celeste people in the chat hyping it up. It's please press confirm.
It seems to be
kind of a meme in the
Yeah, I
community.
was gonna say, it seems to be a hot topic with the community.
It's a meme. Just like hitting confirm when you die. Please do that as well. I showed that off earlier, but I'll do it again. This is when you die without pressing confirm. And I'll get down. Oh, sorry, I didn't get to retry. This is when you die with confirm. It's a lot faster. So just get in the habit of doing that. Get in the habit of doing that. All right, this room, hyper, skip cutscene, hyper, skip cutscene, hyper, skip cutscene. And I'll show the difference between manually pausing and skipping cutscene and my cutscene skip button. So here's pausing and skipping cutscene like that. Here's pausing and pressing my skip cutscene button. So again, very, very word. Find a button that is down and confirm. That is totally legal in the rules. We encourage it, and get used to pressing it for cutscenes. Saves a lot of time. Here, you just want to hit the button. This room can be really fun. Wait for it to retract and then you do a hyper and you just fly across the room. Very, very fun. You're gonna climb on the other side of this block, dash, and then go over here. And here's where seekers start showing up. So seekers are not RNG, they are not random. It is dependent on what you do as Madeline. You can jump on their heads and that will give you your dash back. You also can get, you see their like explosion trajectory, it will move you. So those are some interesting things about seekers. Seekers can also hit coins for you, and that's gonna become important in some of these later rooms of unraveling, which is the name of this checkpoint. So, come up here and hold that wall until the seeker hits the coin for you. Very nice. You can wall bounce back up and the seeker will miss you and you can hit that coin. I'll show that room again. So basically, also the seeker can't see me yet. So once it sees you, it'll start coming after you. But right now, right now I'm chilling. Fall down here, do a wall bounce, get to the top block, fall down, get this block. Ta-da! This room's really weird. I'm gonna set a save state down here. You can see the seeker has now been activated. You can do a hyper and then upright into it, and that'll not have it kill you. And you end up here. But also, just try and you can also just boop the seeker first and then go about your day. It's totally fine either way. These little things, the seeker can't see you and the seeker also can't kill you in them. So those are safe zones. If you're ever feeling stressed about the seeker, you can just like hang out here and then go. This is another example of hold the top of this wall until the seeker hits the coin for you. Seekers can be helpful sometimes. Here's another example of you can do a hyper and an upright. And bonus, it didn't work this time, but sometimes if you do that correctly, the seeker will actually hit the coin for you. Ta-da! Because the explosion also hits it. So that's the benefit of doing the hyper upright there as well, is that the seeker will hit that coin and you don't need to worry about it. This is a really long room. The seeker can break these red blocks. So just be wary of what the seeker's doing. Try and stay out of the way. And once you've gotten all the coins, you want to go back to this and get out of here as fast as possible. And that's unraveling. And so there's this cutscene here. We're going to skip it. And this is back to search, which we talked about a little bit earlier. What you're going to do called search skip. If you played this casually, you picked up a bunch of keys that allowed you to unlock the thing. But instead, once you get to this bubble, dart straight to the left. Get to this area where you see the little lines. That's telling you the right place to go. And we're going to talk about search skip again for those of you who might be coming in. So this is a application of the reverse technique where you dash one way and jump the other. So what we're going to do is a reverse super. So don't press down, just dash to the right and jump to the left, and then up, left, dash. This is the biggest skip in any percent with 5A. Very, very useful and not too strenuous. Highly recommend that you learn this. So jump to the right, dash to the right, jump to the left, and up, left, dash, and that is search skip. Gonna remember to clear the state. So yeah, that's really, really important. Really, really helpful. If you're gonna learn one trick in the entire run, please learn search skip. It will save you a lot of time. Here, just try and stay out of the seeker's way. Use these blocks to your advantage. Stuff like that. Boop. Hitting the seekers can be helpful because you can get your dash back. Here you can, if you just do a super, and you can just like end up on the seeker's head, which is really nice. This room, climb up here. You need to hit this coin, but what you can do is basically hold on to the middle, and as the seeker's coming towards you, scooch down. It'll hit it, and you'll be fine. Or scooch up, sorry. And then that way you'll bonk it, and you'll be safe. So I'll show that one more time. So I go on the bottom of the block, scooch up. No! I accidentally hit it before it hit the block. Oh, I did it again. Come on, Seeker. Come on, Seeker. I believe in you. Thank you. Sometimes that will happen. And that's okay. All right, Theo. So 5A Theo is not my forte. Just gonna say that up front. I play 5B. But the interesting thing about Theo and tech is that Theo is actually pretty, like, you can use tech to help you go fast with Theo. I'm gonna take him into the next room and kind of show you what I mean. You can, if you have Theo set down and you hyper into Theo, you'll pick him up and then keep traveling to the right. And so we're gonna use that a lot. You wanna get comfortable with, I'm basically just holding my grab button down. You don't need to time it. You don't need to time it at all. You can just grab Theo and keep moving. Another really fun thing is that you can neutral with Theo. So I'm grabbing Theo and I'm doing the technique where I jump away from the wall with no directions and then press right again. And you also can throw Theo into walls and then dash up into them. I kind of like to refer to that as a Theo shell jump because I'm an SMW player. It's kind of like a shell jump. And what we're gonna do
Except less
for this
frame
first,
perfect.
yeah, yeah, it's a lot easier than shell jumps, I would say, because you can just be holding dash and you can just hold grab. We're gonna do a little Theo shell jump here. So throw Theo into the wall, dash up, and then you want to jump off the wall after that and throw Theo to the right, and he will hit the button for you. This is a great place to like get comfortable with doing things with Theo, because there's just a pretty wide open spot. So get used to throwing him against the wall and jumping in, dashing into him. Get used to Theo neutrals. This is a really, really nice practice room. So yeah. There you go. This is a great place to get comfy. So, you know, you can always just throw Theo. You can also super into Theo. That's what you can in this room if you, well, if I actually picked him up. Come on, Madeline. I believe in you. And jump, you can get up here. I did not do a great job of showing that off, but that's okay. So yeah, I a lot of times will chuck Theo into the next room and then hyper into him. That pretty much works. You can jump up here and use Theo to do this. You also can wave dash into Theo. That can work too. But you're pretty much trying to like move as quickly as possible with Theo and not die to the seekers here. But Theo's definitely an area that takes a lot of practice. There's a lot of more advanced techniques like Theo Ultras that you can do to travel quickly with Theo. I'll try and demonstrate. And you get a lot of speed like that. So there's some more advanced, like in the any percent tutorial, I believe the programmatic goes over how to do a Theo Ultra. And so there are a lot of ways that you can go really, really fast with Theo. But for the most part, try and get comfortable with hypering into him, throwing him into the next room, stuff like that. This room's kind of funny. You throw Theo and then down right dash, and on the way down, you can right dash into him, and that'll kind of get you out of this room quickly. I'll show that all in a row. So get up here, jump, and then you can go like that. Pretty nice. A little bit faster. This room is really, really fun. So I'm gonna set a save state here. Chuck Theo into the wall. And what you can do is if you down dash and then hyper, you can, I think you down dash and then hyper. You're gonna fly across the room. Yeah, and there's a way to go even, I'm trying to go even farther. There we go.
Wow.
Need to jump a little later. You will zoom me. So remember, step one, chuck him into the wall, down dash, and then do a hyper and hold jump, and you will fly out of that room. Very, very fun. Oops, sorry. Seeker, my bad. So chuck Theo onto here, and then you can hyper out of here. You can actually kill this Seeker, which is kind of funny. I'm probably not going to be able to showcase how it works, but you can kill the Seeker with that block if you time it correctly, and that's a bingo objective for any bingo enjoyers. This room can be really annoying, but I recommend throw Theo and then do like dash into him, and you can get up there without having to neutral, but neutraling is a good backup. So try a Theo shell jump and try and get, if you're not super comfortable with neutrals, you can just down dash and then throw Theo, I believe. Wait, let me make sure I remember how to do this. Oh, you throw Theo and then dash up. No, Theo, stop.
Speaking of Celeste bingo, if people wanted to see some Celeste bingo in the near future, where would they go?
Oh my gosh, Church, I'm so happy that you brought that up. That's so funny. So here, before I talk about bingo, this room, honestly, just try not to die. This room's really bad. It just takes a lot of practice. Yeah, if you enjoyed Celeste's tutorial and or you enjoyed me, or you enjoy Celeste, any combination of those I'll take. Tomorrow on my Hotfix show, It's Dangerous to Go Alone, we're going to have Coral Reef, LM Jax, and Blobity playing Celeste co-op bingo at 4 p.m. So there's more Celeste. And I would love to see you there. I think that would be like really, really fun. No, it's twitch.tv/gamesdonequick. It's gonna be here on Hotfix. And I'm super, super stoked. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, if you enjoy bingo regularly, the Celeste community channel does showcase a lot of bingo. And bingo is like a more advanced type of competitive thing where you get certain objectives like secret kills and cassettes and hearts and stuff like that. So yeah, that is Mirror. Most important things there: get comfortable with your Theo movement, get comfortable with the search skip, and you'll be fine. You'll be all right. Cool. All right, so now we are gonna get into Reflection, my favorite chapter casually, and just really fun to get good at as well, especially the battling section. So we're gonna skip this cutscene. So feathers! Interesting thing about feathers that I want to talk about as a keyboard player that I did not know until way too late when I was playing Farewell. When you're playing on an analog, you can just move the feather in 360 directions. That's wonderful. On keyboard, you can just move, left, right, up, down. But when you're transitioning directions, you should press the diagonal because that will maintain your speed a lot better. And so when you're gonna travel up, try and do the intermediate, like go to the left, then up, left, then up. That will save you a lot of speed. Very important to do so. When I was starting out, I just pressed the cardinal directions and want to teach you here that please press the intermediate directions. That will allow you to go much farther, much safer feather movement. Pretty much here, you just want to travel up as much as possible, go straight towards the next feathers, all that good stuff. Skip the cutscene here once you see Madeline start floating towards the top. There's an advanced technique here called lake skip that I am not confident enough to even teach. If you're interested in lake skip, there's plenty of awesome tutorials on how it works. But basically, you want to just go over to this Kevin, and he'll take you upward. You can hyper into the feathers, just like you saw me do, and they will keep your momentum for a little bit, and then you'll transform into a feather. When you're going from feather to feather, I'll talk about this room. When you're going from feather to feather, if you go fast enough, you'll skip the cutscene. If you go a little bit too slow between feathers, you'll see Madeline transform to a feather again. So when you're transitioning between, you want to try and go as fast as possible from one to the next. So this room, you want to, typically casually you have to go to the right, up, and then left. But as you're coming out of this feather, up, left into Kevin, and then down. And then you can do a hyper straight to this wall. That's a lot faster. So I'll show that in succession. So up, left into Kevin, down, and then do a hyper. You don't even, well, you need to hold jump a little bit, but you don't need your extension to make it to the wall. Ta-da! And then you want to hyper into this room and hyper again to this feather. This is why you got to get comfortable with feather movement to get through these rooms without dying and stuff like that. All that good stuff. And yeah, again, just a lot of feather movement. So you see me taking my diagonals as I go around these corners, because if you did it without diagonals, it would be a lot slower of transition. So get comfortable with going from, do the transitionary movements if you're playing on keyboard. If you're playing on analog, congratulations, you can move in all directions anyway. I'm happy for you.
So
that is
I don't know how viable this is. I know in a game we've actually already had, Batman, there's strats that some of the runners prefer to do on keyboard versus controller, and they actually have both available. Is that something you would recommend, or is even possible in Celeste?
I think I've known of people who have done it in Celeste. I would not recommend it. If you're a keyboard player, you are not that much at a disadvantage with feathers. But a lot of controller players, they play the game on D-pad, but then swap to analog when feathers happen, and I think that is recommended if you play on controller. Okay. You will swap between the D-pad and the analog. There are some players who are specifically all analog, but I would say the majority of controller players play most of the game on D-pad and then swap to analog. But if you're playing on keyboard, I really wouldn't recommend it. So here's an example of where neutrals become very important to us. So coming here, you want to do a wall bounce off this wall, grab onto the wall, and then you can climb until your stamina runs out. So climb, 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 3 climb jumps, and then you're gonna neutral to victory. So a recap of what neutrals are: you gotta jump away from the wall, holding no directions, and then you will push right again, and it becomes a rhythm of let go, push right as you're jumping. So 1, 2, 3, neutral, neutral, neutral to victory. A lot faster than going the long way here. This room, you want to just, hit Kevin, wait for him to hit the wall, and then hit Kevin again as fast as possible. And you can hyper off the Kevin. You don't have to wait for him to get all the way over, which is nice. Oh, I meant to dash out of that feather. Really fun strat. You can do a wall bounce here at the end and you'll fling all the way over there. But otherwise, if you aren't comfortable with doing that wall bounce off of Kevin, that is totally fine. You can instead just jump like this, because doing the wall bounce involves going back on top of the Kevin, because you do need to get your dash back. So you'll hit, oops, sorry, I meant to not get hit by the spinner. Dash here, go on top of the Kevin, and then do a wall bounce like that. It's a bit tight, but not too strenuous. So here's hollows. There's many ways to take hollows. I'm gonna be going the fastest way through hollows that many runners take is you go up first, and then we're going to go up again. And a lot of these rooms are just, hyper all the way over and climb, hyper all the way over and climb. Not too bad. Again, we're gonna hyper over this bumper. We don't really need to talk to him. Take this upper section. So the good thing is it's really easy to remember. You just go up for a really long time. This, hit Kevin, and then if you do a hyper, you can like zoomy across the room. You just got to be ready to upright. You also sometimes will hit this bumper, and that's totally fine. So from here, this is where we got to like break through these walls. You want to be ready to, break the walls as soon as possible. Here, you want to stand back a little bit on the wall, because then you'll be able to dash twice. You'll actually get your dash back. So dash, dash, like that. Pretty easy to, oh, these are all going to be broken, but that's okay. So be sure to stand back enough so you can dash, dash twice and keep moving. Bumpers! Bumpers are finicky. Basically, every time you hit a bumper, you're going to go in that direction, and you're also going to get your dash back. So just be careful of where the bumpers are going to take you. You can dash into bumpers to kind of control your momentum a little bit better. Something you absolutely want to get used to is like, if I go here on the bumper, what direction am I going to go, and stuff like that. So now I guess I should say specifically what room we're going in. So we end up at the down right section, and so then you're going to take this feather up and to this middle section. That's gonna be where we go next. At first, you might get a little lost in hollows, remembering, the correct order, but don't worry, over time, you'll get more and more comfortable with it. Dash to the right, and then you can climb up here. Here, you actually don't need to hit Kevin. You can just get on top of Kevin, and if you down right, you'll be safe. And you're fine. So, try just climb on top of Kevin, down right, and then you can up right to here. This is kind of where the route diverges. Top route is more difficult, but saves a little bit of time. If you're just starting out, I highly recommend you go bottom route. What you're gonna do especially with the new patch, bumper boosts are easier. I'll talk a little bit about what bumper boosts are now. If you jump into a bumper, you'll get a certain amount of distance to the left or to the right, depending on where you hit it. If you hold the direction away from the bumper, you will go a lot farther. So here's the normal hit, right? Here is with a bumper boost. Much farther. You can actually just skip that second bumper. And so it's a lot easier on 1.4, the newest patch. Luckily, there's a lot more freeze frames. So get used to getting this bumper boost and try and go all the way over to this third bumper. Same here. Try and get this bumper boost and head over to this feather. And that's bottom route. It's a lot easier than the top route. I highly recommend doing that when you're starting out. So then take this feather to the upright, get a refill in the middle, get a refill here. And that is the divergent section of hollows. Takes a little bit to know, you know, which order to go in. So be sure to familiarize yourself with the rooms that you should be doing and stuff like that. So yeah. And I see that there's a little bit of a conversation about 6B and 6A in the chat. So we talked about 5A and 5B earlier, and I said I recommend for people who are looking to get into Celeste speedrunning, start with 5A. I highly, highly recommend that you play 6A and don't switch to 6B unless you are very, very serious with the game, like going for like sub 30, you know, sub 32, very, very high level. 6B is super tough and really hard to save time. The time discrepancy is a lot less. 5B, you can save like 30 to 40 seconds with a decent amount of practice. 6B in any percent only saves like, it's less than 10, I think. So very, very not worth learning until you're really, really serious with this game. Yeah. But 6B is a viable route for top level runs.
Yeah, that's like your intermediate to advanced level stuff.
Yeah, like I don't run 6B in any percent. I don't even run 6B in all red berries. Like I could, but I choose not to. And I have a 32 in any percent with no 6B. So it's like you absolutely you don't even need to learn it. There are high level players who refuse to play 6B, and I think that's totally fine. It's not a huge difference. Whereas 5A versus 5B is pretty much, you really should learn 5B once you get to more advanced, more serious learning. So this room has a few routes that you can go. I'll showcase kind of what I recommend doing. So from here, I'll set a save state. You can down right and then down left, and you will go through this little slot, and you can land here. So once you get past the slot, be sure to hold left a little bit. You can fast fall at any point in this room. It makes it a little bit tighter, but you obviously go faster. Fast falling is just when you're in the air holding down. You'll see Madeline kind of like squish herself a little bit. So you can see that she gets a little thinner. Her hitbox does squish a little bit that way, and you go faster. So that's nice. I think it squishes. I could be wrong, but and so land here, and then we're gonna go to the left here. There's a checkpoint here, which is great. So that's gonna let you go here in this other. These are all developer intended shortcuts. You can use the background to help you. You kind of want to line up with the green in the background, the right side of the green in the background. The hard part about this one is you do have to scooch over halfway through it. So this is one that takes a little bit of practice, knowing where you need to actually go and when you need to scooch over, but it's definitely worth it. And then in water, you can dash as much as possible. You immediately get your dash bag. So just dash a ton. Dash, 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 dash. You can like dash into this little corner, scoot up a little bit. Just try not to, hit any of these spinners. It's very possible the hitbox stays the same. I forget, if I'm being honest. All right, so this room's really fun. There is a technique called battle in boost that I will talk about once I get over this like little jumpy section. So let me set a save state. The crux of what battle and boosting is you're gonna do a hyper and then a bunny hop, and all while on Kevin and at a certain point in the background. So once her hair goes back and you see there's a thing in the background that is covering like 2/3 of the screen, that's when I'm gonna do my hyper bunny hop. So her hair goes back and the little thing goes there, and I do a hyper bunny and fly through this room, which is really fun. Let me show you again how that kind of works. So her hair goes back, the platform, there's the little green pillar that goes like mostly up the screen. Make sure you're all the way to the left on the Kevin. You do a hyper and then you jump, and it's got to be a fairly short hyper, and then you want to hold jump. And if you do it too early, like if you try and do it here, you will not make it all the way over. And if you do it a little late, like say, let me try here. Oh, I didn't actually get the hyper. 1 second. Let me try that again. You'll go here and you'll kind of bonk within there. So, you know, try and get a comfortable sense of the visual cue that works best for you. You do a hyper bunny hop and jump again, and you'll fly all the way over here. You want to let go of jump, I believe, like, let me see. I kind of know it more by feel than by look at this point, but yeah, I jump. Once you jump the second time, let go of jump, and you'll slide all the way over. And that's not even the coolest part. We're going to do a cutscene skip and then fling straight into Madeline. So once Madeline gets to about the flower you see on the ground, I'll show you. It's this, I believe it's, let me make sure I'm saying the right flower. Gonna do a hyper bunny, jump again. Yeah, okay. You can keep sliding and actually do that. Let me show you one more time. You're gonna skip the cutscene and jump. So it's once you get to this flower is when you pause and skip cutscene, and you'll jump right into Madeline, which is why it's called Madeline Boost. You end up right in her face. This is a really, really fun strat. Definitely worth messing around with. And, you know, even if you just get this first part, it's fast. It's much faster than waiting for Kevin. So definitely take the time to try and learn this. And then you start the Madeline fight. So very, very fun strat. The Madeline fight. The crux of the Madeline fight is you want to just get to Madeline and give her a hug as fast as possible. And this involves hypering, wave dashing, pretty much anything that you can do. And the faster you go, the less you're going to die to Madeline, because she just doesn't have as many chances to hit you. So really focus on, you know, getting confident with where you want to hyper, where you want to dash to hit Madeline. This is very much a by feel chapter until you get to, like, you know, really intense optimizations of like when you enter and exit this rooms in this chapter. But for the most part, just try and get over to Madeline and, you know, hit her as fast as possible. That's going to be the way you save a lot of time in this chapter. Like, one strat is you can go underneath here, then you can hyper straight into Madeline here, for example. There's a lot of different ways that you can save time here by optimizing how quickly you get to Madeline. But in the early stages, aiming for sub hour, just want to try and die less and less and less and less, and then worry about optimizing in and out of each room. This room is kind of an exception. So I would say there's a few strats in here that are worth being specific about. So you can do an extended hyper and then dash down into Madeline. And then from here, what's really fun is you can do a hyper into Madeline, and then you're gonna down left once you hit that crystal, and then down right. Down left, down right, hyper, and that will take you straight to Madeline. I'll show that room again, or I'll show this part again. So hyper, down left, down right. That's a lot faster and safer than pretty much anything else you would try and do in that room. I really like that strat. Now we got a mix of feathers in Madeline. Be careful when you enter a feather, hold the direction that you want to be going when you want to leave. If you're holding the right direction, you're going to go straight to the right. So like for example, when I enter this feather, I'm holding down right. That way I know that I'm going to be going in the right direction. I had too much speed is what happened. It sent me right into the spinner. So here, hold down right and then be ready. Stuff like that. This room can be really frustrating. Just try and take your time. Get up here. This is generally a good place to be to try and hit Madeline. Just doing lots of hypers. All right, this section, you can go fast enough to beat this cycle, but if you're nervous, you know, you can just up into the ceiling to avoid the laser. This room, we're gonna do a lot of hypers and dashes into Madeline. So down left, you can jump off that wall, jump off this wall, and then you can fall into that crumble and jump and dash into her, or as you're falling, do a wave dash. This strat is really fancy. I don't necessarily recommend it, but I will show you because it's fun. I'm gonna do a reverse hyper into an ultra and fly into Madeline. So there's some really fancy stuff in this chapter that you can learn, and it makes it really fun. So this is kind of the halfway point of the fight, is when you get this cutscene with Madeline being like, you're not a mountain climber, and it gets a little bit more intense from here. So there's another checkpoint you want to make sure to skip.
It gets a little more intense, as if it hasn't already been.
It gets a little more intense. The music picks up again, which is cool. You now have these a lot more moving platforms, like during the fight itself, not just at the end of the room. This room is really tough, so what I recommend doing is do a short hyper and then land on this platform, and then you can jump and then dash into her. From here, you want to do a hyper and then down right and do another hyper really fast. That'll get you here. And then from here, just be careful of where Battlin's shooting at you. You can hyper up onto the platform. From here, I'll show you it all together. So do a hyper, and then do another hyper. And it's totally okay if you do a short one and have to climb up. That's better than going too high and her hitting you in the face with the thing. So, here we go. This room is pretty tricky. I recommend get over here, and then, well, you want to be on it when it's high up, so you can do a hyper and then kind of fall off an upright, interestingly enough. So hyper, and then you can, upright into her. This I recommend taking slow. It's really precise movement. The only way to get over this part is when the block is moving up. You have to jump off of it and get the momentum. So you're a little cycle locked in this section, but don't stress too much about it. Just try and avoid the shots from her. Jump, get on over to her. There we go. This is a very long room, so just be aware of where the laser is gonna be. This is a great example of hit her before she hits you. Try and, be confident and try and dash into Battlin before she has the chance to get you. I recommend dashing. I didn't get the bumper boost there. I recommend dashing into that bumper to kind of control how you get to it a little bit better. So, dash to the left, dash to the right. And here you want to jump off at the right time. And now fall down, dash left into the bumper. And if you hold right against the bumper, that'll make it a lot easier for you to get all the way up to Battlin. And now is the last really tough room in this chapter. This one's really long. So what you want to do is make sure, you travel to the right, and then you need to scoot up or down to make sure that she doesn't hit you with the laser. And so, here, for example, oh, she's about to hit me. Let me dash up to avoid the laser. You can do a really short hyper to go all the way from this, be on the left side, to the spring. And I think that's really, really safe. If you're not confident with doing the hyper, just jump off and dash to the right. That's totally fine. Let me show you the whole room again. So I'm gonna take this feather, I'm gonna go straight to the right and then down to avoid getting hit. I'm gonna go straight to the right, and then up. You just wanna make sure you keep moving away from I missed the hyper. You wanna keep moving away from where the laser is gonna get you. That's the scary part, especially on pace. This room can be really, really scary, but just stay calm, be aware of where Battlin's laser is gonna be. There we go. Now we just hyper to victory, and we get the really emotional cutscene, and we level up! So now we have 2 dashes for the remainder of the any % run. So don't forget that you have 2 dashes. Use them wisely. Dash twice everywhere. It's fast. So basically, just use your 2 dashes to get to the end of the screen. Wall bouncing on all these walls is great. Good wall bounce practice here. And get up to the baddie orb. Yep, a hyper. Yeah, a hyper is when you hold down right or hold down left and then dash and jump. That is the name for what we call that. It's called a hyper dash. Yeah. I'm super happy to ask questions for people who are still coming in. But yeah, I did do a tech tutorial at the very beginning. If you're interested you can always go back and rewatch that once it's up on YouTube and stuff like that. But I'm happy to answer questions. But hyper dashing is really, really fundamental to a lot of the tech and speed in this run.
The VOD will be up tomorrow at about 4 p.m.
Yeah. All right, so now we have 2 dashes. Things can get really wild. So remember when we talked about extensions, when you get your dash back from a hyper, you dash and then jump, and sometimes if you do it too quickly, you won't get your dash back. If you wait a little bit longer to jump, you will get your dash back. And here, when you do an extended hyper or an extended wave dash, you will get both dashes back, which is huge. So we're gonna basically be able to do 3 or 4 dashes sometimes. So that's where, Summit is, one of the longest chapters. it is like in my 30, like I have a 32 any percent, and Summit was 9 minutes of that. It's a long chapter, and it's worth getting good at and worth putting a lot of time into. And also, when you get dash crystals now, you'll get both your dashes back as well. So use that to your advantage. Use that to your advantage. Same thing with springs. Like anything you interact with, you're gonna get both your dashes back. So take the time to get used to what it feels like to have 2 dashes. A lot of these rooms, we're just, you know, trying to go through them as fast as possible. Here, instead, we can totally skip these dash crystals, do an extension, and go all the way to this spring. Because you have 2 dashes. You can do an extension and then dash and dash again. This room can be really tricky. I recommend that set your save state here and practice doing a hyper and going straight to this dash crystal. We're basically going to go from dash crystal to dash crystal. That's going to be your guide in this room. And then hit this spring and get up here. I'll show that from here. Do a hyper into the thing. And then just go crystal to crystal. Those are your guides. And hit the spring. That room can be really slow if you're not confident in where to go. Now these Battle-In rooms, you have to go to each part of where Battle-In is. And then be sure to wait until you see Battle-In to skip the cutscene. If you skip early, you'll have to do that whole last room again, which is scary. So.
Yeah.
Here, this room is really interesting. You can do a super, and then you're gonna wall bounce off of this. It's a little tricky because the timing is hard, but you can wall bounce off of this and just go straight up here. Definitely worth practicing this room. Here, we're gonna just use these springs to help us get through. Here, this room, I recommend doing, you can do a wall bounce, and then 2 ups to go much faster. Because anytime you're not climbing, like, you know, climbing is fairly slow. You definitely don't want to be climbing. So here, you want to jump, and you can do an up, left, and up. You actually don't need to go all the way over to that wall, which is nice. You can do a wall bounce here to get that coin, but that's kind of hard. But you don't need this spring. You can just do this. So don't worry about hitting that spring on the left. It's just there for niceness. Yeah, a lot of this checkpoint, there's like some really advanced stuff you can do, but you don't have to do it. Like this room, if you do a hyper bunny hop, you can skip those springs and get here. But like, if you're having trouble with that, you don't need to do that. You can just take these springs and you really don't lose that much more time. That's what's really lovely about Summit is like you can do whatever strats are more comfortable for you. So here I recommend do an extension and upright twice to get to Battle-In. There is a strat that you can do in this where you do a corner kick and then grab this block first, but that can be pretty tough. So don't stress about it if you're worried about it. Another thing you can do, what I used to do before I understood how to do the corner kick, jump here, then activate the block like that. I think that's a really nice beginner backup for this. So we're gonna go to Battle-In, dash to the left, then activate the block and go. Ta-da! Because that saves time from having to activate the block, then fall down to the dash crystal, and then go back up. So I recommend that strat. I think it's comfy. And then we get to 15. No, don't worry. We're still at 1,000. I was jumping ahead. This area is really fun. You basically just get to jump a lot in dream blocks. So, dude, 1,000 is very, very comfy. You can do diagonal dashes all throughout this room instead of jumping around. So up right, up left, up right, and left. A lot faster. And the great part about, you know, going out of dream blocks, you also get 2 dashes going out of that. So we use that to our advantage. We don't need to use any of these springs since you're jumping out of all of these dream blocks. I'll showcase this room again. So jump, upright, right, and then upright and right. Oh, I was a little low there. Needed to jump a little bit higher. If you're worried about your height, you can also, oops, I missed the jump. You can also, what I want to say is jump up and upright if you're worried about your height. It's all about doing, you know, whatever's most comfortable for you. You want to go up in this room and just go up into this block, and then just do a bunch of diagonal dashes to get up here. This checkpoint feels really, really fancy. And it's very fun. And the cool thing is you can also grab onto dream blocks. So if you're not super comfortable with like doing all of the dashes in midair, don't be afraid to grab onto the dream block and then dash. That is totally acceptable. That is totally fine.
And then yeah,
the crux.
You got.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say like you can. All right, now I can't remember. I can't find the words. Awesome. You can like adjust your position and everything for your jumps. If you grab on
exactly.
like that, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're like, oh shoot, I've been having trouble like getting this dash, like don't be afraid to be like, I'm gonna grab onto the dream block and then worry about my positioning. That's totally fine. And super cool thing in this room, you can actually like up left diagonal through both of these dream blocks, because they're technically still connected at the corner. So you can go wee and you just totally skip past that. It's a lot more lenient than it looks. Nice job back there. Thanks, Battlein. Here's where this chapter can get a little scary because we're back in resort and we're back to cycles, but I promise that this gets better with more practicing. Coming into this room, you can just do 2 uprights to get over here, which makes it pretty manageable. And you don't need to go up and over here. Let this fall and go right and then upright. That way you skip those, you know, you skip those 2 dust bunnies and it's a lot safer. This room, do an extension and then jump, and you can just, you know, go past here. You don't need to worry about jumping between those 2 blocks if you don't want to. This room you kind of just get used to by feel, but, you know, upright and then down right. There's a, you know, you want to get comfortable with when to do it in entry. Like I do it in midair, usually, if I, you know, remember how to do this right. There you go. If you do it fast, you can go, but otherwise, you know, you can set up and do an upright, wait, and do another up, down right. Okay, this room is quite scary. It takes a lot of practice. So what we want to do an extension and then get to this wall. And you know, climb up here. And, you know, right dash, now we're here. You want to be sure to go when you have the correct timing. You can up dash twice and just get over here. So you don't need to worry about going to the right or left. So then climb here. Timing when to go here is very stressful. So just get used to falling straight down. If you fall too far to the left or the right, you're gonna get hit by the dust bunnies. But then, you know, also time when to go here. I'll do that whole room in a row. You can go onto this wall if you're, you know, feeling that you're not confident on this cycle. I'm gonna wait for it to go and then go. You can also fast fall there if you're comfortable with fast falling. That can make it a little bit safer, stuff like that. You can do a wave dash off of that middle block, so you can fall down right and then wave dash, and that's really, really smooth. If you're not super comfortable with doing the wave dash in midair, that's fine. You can just land and then upright and up, totally chill. There's a lot of advanced strats for this room. I'm gonna just recommend kind of basically doing the intended way. Grab the coin, climb up here, and you can get your dash back when you can climb up and then dash to the right. There's a lot of ways you can go much faster in that room, but they're very difficult and dependent on entry. So figure out what's comfortable for you for that room. Same with this room is basically just, you know, you gotta time when you dash through it. And I recommend going down here. You can just do an extension and then go up and right. And then you're in this room. Kind of a fun alternate path. More cycles. You want to get comfortable with when to go in this room. So I usually fall, go straight for this dash crystal, can grab on here, get this dash crystal, and go like that. And this last room, you gotta just pay attention to where the dust bunnies are. You have a lot of time to wait in the air, more than you think. So just don't rush it, don't panic, and wait for the dust bunnies to be out of your way, you know, before going. All right, we're about halfway-ish through Summit.
Halfway.
There's a lot in this chapter.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this chapter. Do you have any questions about anything we've been doing so far? Because these first 2 rooms are pretty
I think you've
chill.
been explaining them pretty well.
Awesome.
I am running out of words today, apparently. Yeah.
No worries.
I feel like you've been doing a very good job at explaining.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, a lot of it is just practicing and getting the timings down and everything.
Yeah.
And from there, everything else seems like it's pretty straightforward after you've gotten the either the timings of the cycles down or the timing of like your hypers and your all the other tech.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's like some people really enjoy going room by room and getting super confident that room before moving to the next one. I like doing like checkpoint practice and level practice, more kind of holistic runs. Like doing individual level runs is so important to gaining consistency, pushing through deaths and stuff like that. And the game keeps track of your IL bests, so you can keep seeing them go down and get faster, which is really satisfying. Hit those goals for yourself. And stuff like that. But yeah, Summit is definitely a chapter I recommend learning section by section, because it can be really hard to sit down and learn in one go. Like I learned it over the course of like 3 or 4 days. Like, do not rush this chapter, but spend a lot of time in this chapter is what I recommend. So this room's pretty fun. You can dash and then do a wall bounce, and you'll end up here. And up here is a lot faster than going to the right. So get comfortable with, you can just, it's pretty easy to bonk, but you want to do kind of a early wall bounce, and you want to use these clouds to go up here, and we get a bonus Bowie, which is awesome. Yeah, fun fact, I am a teacher in real life, so I have a lot of practice, I think, at talking through things I've done before, stepping people through different stages of how good you are at this game, and it really translates well to speedrunning. You got to learn the building blocks and work your way up to the challenge problems, you know, in a way.
You're not going to be able to do the world record strats on your first run, so
no.
Work on your hypers, work on your quarter boosts and stuff like that, and then go for the more technical stuff.
Yeah, and I think alternate between doing runs and doing practice. It's like, oh, I want to see how much I've improved, let me do a run. That's awesome. But, you know, throwing yourself at runs over and over again can not necessarily be the most efficient way to get better at this game. And so try and also rest your hands, you know, don't push yourself too hard in any given day, you know, stuff like that. So this room is one of the really long ones, and there's snowballs. So you want to be really cognizant of where Madeline is when the snowballs are going to come for you. Like there, I didn't go fast enough, and I was in a very vulnerable position, especially because there's wind and snowballs. So you want to get into a place where, you know, I'm going to be able to avoid the snowballs. You can go up here. You also, if you just do an extension and upright twice, you can skip that, and it makes you less vulnerable to snowballs. So I recommend learning that strat. There's a few different things you can do in this room. For beginners, oh, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. For beginners, I pretty much recommend, there's 2 things that I would recommend. First, you can, you know, take this block like normal, and that's no problem. You know, you push it down there and take it to the end of the room. That's like totally chill, absolutely respectable. But there's a few things you can do to make this room a bit faster. So you can take this block for the first half of the room and then go over to this second block. And from here, you can do a wall bounce off this little corner and dash up. It's a lot more lenient than it looks. Wall bounce and then dash up. So you can do that, take the block for the first half and then do that. What you also can do, a little bit more advanced, but is pretty cool, is you can do an extended hyper off this block. Oops, I was a little too high up. The nuance, there's a bit of a nuance to this one because you have to have good positioning on this block. Yeah, like see, I'm a bit too high. I need it to be a smidge lower so I don't get hit by these spikes here. You can do an extension and get all the way over and then do the end of the room like I was saying. Oh no, I missed. Can I save this? Let's see. Oh, maybe.
I believe.
That's okay. You can save that.
Right.
That is savable.
Never mind. I'm gonna not believe in you next time. Maybe that'll work.
All right. But yeah, I probably recommend take the block for the first half and then try out the wall bounce strat. And if the wall bounce strat doesn't work for you, no problem. That's all good. This room, there's not a ton you can do to speed it up. Just get comfortable with walking on the end of this block. And you have to jump off of it there, but that's the only place you have to jump off of it. Here, you can just upright. You don't even need the cloud, which is kind of funny.
That's helpful.
Just do. Yep. Dash to the right into this bubble, and just do a bunch of up dashes. There's a lot of fancy things you can do in this room, but I recommend you do an extension and get to this block, and then you have 2 dashes, get to this block, and the spring will give you 2 back. And you don't have to take this all the way over since you have a dash. Just let it take you a little bit, and then you can dash to the right. That's pretty good. And just like all the other battling rooms, this room's pretty lengthy, but as long as you don't stress too much, be cognizant of how the wind is going to change Madeline's momentum. And we're good. That section's pretty technical. Highly recommend practicing. Practice 1500 and practice 2K a lot. They're really, they can be tough for sure. And be sure to fast bubble all these red bubbles, like I totally didn't forget to do. Here you can jump all the way over to this and then just fall down. And that's instead of, typically you would dash and then wait for it to retract and then fall down. But if you're on the right side of the block and you hold jump, you can just make it all the way over. Don't have to worry about waiting that long. This is really fun. Do a wave dash and you'll just woo! Fly over. This room has a lot of scary strats, so I'll kind of show you what I do. Oh, I messed it up. And that takes a lot of practice to be able to do those wave dashes off of it. So what I kind of recommend is get to this dash crystal and do a wave dash off the block and 2 uprights. That's the backup I use if I don't get this strat and entry. So come down here, do an extended super, get this dash crystal, and do a wave dash, and you'll be good to go. If that is still a bit too strenuous, get over to this dash crystal, and then you can climb on top of this block to get your dash back. There's a ton of options. That's pretty much, that's true for pretty much any of these rooms. There are so many options. Don't let one strat or anything, make you feel too stressed out. So this is the key skip. So typically you have to take this bubble downward and take a bubble up to get this key. But what we're gonna do, come into this room, and I'm gonna set a save state on the top of this wall. You're gonna jump. You jump off the wall, and then with your second jump button, jump off the right side of the wall. And I'm only holding the up button, not holding any other directions when I do this. So jump, jump, dash, dash. And you can get up here, grab the key, and then retry. Let me clear my state. So yeah, you grab this key, and then you retry, you still have the key. And that skip is really neat. Definitely recommend learning it. You just got to get a feel for when to jump off the wall, pretty much. And it's not too bad. Not too scary.
Sorry, are you spamming the second jump button, or where's the,
I'm timing it on the wall. So it's like I'm holding my first jump button, and then I hit the second one once I see Madeline get to the wall, essentially. Once she's inside the spinner. Funny enough. Oh, see, sometimes you'll die if you jumped too high on the wall. So yeah, it takes a little bit of time to figure out how long you need to hold jump and stuff like that. Pretty neat.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty sure. Just be careful not to get squished anywhere in there, because those are dash blocks. Oh, I dashed a little too early. Here's a great spot to practice your fast bubbling and all that good stuff. This room has been referred to as thread the needle. So there's a few different ways you can do this. Since you have a demo dash button now, that allows you to do diagonal demos. I recommend doing a diagonal demo upright. So I'm gonna do an extension and do, whoops, I meant to do an upright and up. So upright demo and then an up dash. As you can see, there's a lot more leniency since I'm squished when I do this demo. Oh my gosh, I did not mean to get squished there. But so yeah, I recommend do an upright demo and an up. That makes this a lot more lenient. But pretty much you want to do your upright dash once Madeline gets to the vines in the background. And that's a pretty nice visual cue for that room. This is Door Skip, a very infamous room. Saves you a lot of time if you get it. That's a joke. Like, it saves a little bit of time, but it's not too bad with a demo button. So dash to the right, and then you just demo under this door, and then dash to the right, upright, and demo under this door. With a demo button, it's pretty accessible. I think it's worth learning. The things that'll happen is like, yeah, there you dashed a little bit too high, but you know, for the most part, this is pretty lenient. Just got to get used to where you dash under the door. Yeah, it saves a lot of time. So. Yeah, the world record is not deathless because there are a handful of spots that retrying is actually faster. Like, and also it's hard to be deathless even if you are going to try. This room is really long. There's only a few spots. Like, so we want to do a hyper to this spring. You want to do a wave dash off this block. And then here, you're going to totally skip this block by doing an extension and up left to this wall. Be sure to land on the spring as it retracts. Get to baddie. And here you want to jump between these blocks to avoid the spinners and head up to battling. This is it, the home stretch. It really is. So this is the conclusion of the run and the tutorial. Funny enough, this is gonna be like sub 2 hours. My very first speedrun of this game ever. I got like a 155. This might be sub 2 hours. We'll see how long 3K takes. But you know, and a lot of times people ask, what is a good time? And a good time is a time that you're happy with. Like, I know that's cheesy, but it's true. You should run this game because it makes you happy and because you're enjoying it, and we're all rooting for you, and we'll be excited to see your submissions. And after this, I'll talk about how to submit a run and stuff like that. So we want to head over here. We're now in what's called downdraft. Downdraft makes it so, you know, your jumps are lower and stuff like that. So up dashing is going to be your best friend for getting the height that you need through here. You can see that climbing up the wall is not moving me up very high, so dashing is going to be the move here. And every flag you get is a checkpoint, so pick up those flags. There's a few flags we're going to be skipping, and I'll talk about those. You can skip 24, but I would say for now it's worth taking because we just want extra safety throughout this.
Yeah, especially when you're learning.
Yeah. So all these flags are super nice, you know, to learn, not too strenuous. And here we go. Just spamming dash up to baddie. Nothing too fancy in that section for learning. No huge skips. And now we're in updraft. And everything's floaty. So you'll see a lot of people, you know, fast falling here to save time. I'll do that flag again, but basically what happened is I uprighted into the dash crystal, and that gave me 2 dashes back. So you want to time when you dash to when you're underneath this crystal, and then you dash upright to land on this wall. And that's going to allow you to do this, a right dash and then an up dash to this flag. So that takes a little bit of practice of when to position your upright dash. Definitely worth your, you know, set a save state, practice getting to that wall and stuff like that. All right, and then you can just jump over this by holding grab and jumping. Recommend doing an extension here to this hyper. You can skip that wall. You can skip one wall here, and then you'll climb up here. Stamina can definitely be an issue, so you want to be careful. So upright dash, jump off this wall. You don't need to hold it. You don't need to hold that wall either, but I just did it for safety. And yeah, you can see that stamina is a bit tight there because the more you hold onto the wall and the more you climb, the less stamina you have. So it's safer to grab less. Safer to grab less. So we're getting into a pretty long flag here. So you want to be super careful about making sure you get to the springs to get your dash back. And this upright is scary. If you're not feeling it, you know, you can go back to the spring. It's gonna be okay. And you want to do two up dashes right in the middle. Dying on that flag is a lot of time loss, so that's definitely one to practice and get confident with where you need to be coming off of that spring and dashing. So There you can do a neutral because of updraft to just like boop around that spinner. If you're not comfortable with that, neutral, you can just go over this dash crystal. Not a huge deal. This is mainly just dash in the right directions. Grab this flag over here. A lot of 3K is just, you know, getting comfortable with where you need to be dashing. There's like really high level strats to go fast, but you want to skip flag 8 because it's pretty out of the way. So just head straight to this cloud. You don't need to worry about grabbing flag 8. It's very out of the way, not super worth getting. You can hyper over to this feather, and you want to take this feather up to the second cloud. You can totally skip that first one if you're, you know, positioning well enough. You don't actually need to grab flag 5. By entering this screen, you will get flag 5, but I took too long and I collected it. Not the end of the world, though. Here you can do a wall bounce off of this wall. And you want to grab this feather and get all the way to the flag over here. You can land down here if you're not confident enough with your feathering, but it would be nice to land right up to where flag 3 is. This feather, you want to climb up here, dash to the right, climb up and dash to the left. It looks a lot tighter than it is. You have plenty of room. And we're getting to the end. Here's flag 2. Dash up and dash right. This part can be a little scary, but just be confident in where you are getting to the wall. I'll show flag 2 again because this can be a little tough. So I typically do an extended hyper, but if you're not, you can just do 2 up lefts. That's totally fine. Up and up right. Here. And then there's flag 1. Oh no! Oh, I almost ran out of stamina. Ooh. There's a lot of fancy stuff you can do in flag 1 also, but the most important thing is to not die, honestly. Like, I know that we've said that kind of the whole run, but it's especially important in flag 1 because it can be really tilting. So just do whatever you can to go fast, but also not die here. Don't be too aggressive if you're not ready. All right, and skip the cutscene, and that is the run. We did it. Sub 2 hours.
Yeah, it's up to.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm playing on Everest, so this is unsubmittable. But
yeah, you're a little over. But...
not quite close to my PB, but that's okay. So yeah, you can see that's the end of the 90% run, and then you have epilogue. Shows you how many deaths you have, how many berries you have, you know, all that good stuff. So 240 deaths throughout this tutorial. Sub 2.
That sounds
pretty
like
awesome.
My first chapter.
my first speedrun was a 155. So, you know, we all start somewhere, and just through playing it more, taking the time to practice, you know, you'll get better and better. And I think that's really cool, but we're not done yet. So I have like a kind of conclusionary segment that I want to talk about, and things that we're doing. So how are we doing on time? What's the timer at?
Timer started at the start of this run, and we're at 2:04, so we're probably at like 2:30.
Okay, cool. So that's perfect because I have some like closing remarks. I probably have another like, you know, 15-20 minutes of stuff that I still want to talk about. So we went through the run itself. And so now I want to talk a little bit about how do you submit a speed run, because we talked about all the things you need to do to set up. And then we went through every single chapter and all of the varying, you know, a lot of the varying introductory strats that you can do. And now we're at the conclusion of the run. So first, I want to say this is also the open time for questions. I'm going to be staring at the chat. If I missed your question earlier, or you have a new question now, like please feel free to put it in the chat. I have links, I have answers. So this is kind of the open Q&A period, while I also talk about the concluding things and other stuff that's going on in Celeste speedrunning. So in terms of verifying your run, firstly, you need to not be playing on Everest. I talked at the beginning of this about how important Everest and Speedrun Tool are for learning, but be careful when you are submitting your time. Be sure you're on vanilla. If you've loaded into Everest, you can hold right and the game will close and reopen in vanilla. So that's a really lovely shortcut that the Everest devs have put in. And you can check, you shouldn't have any mod options. Be sure to check that beforehand, because we have to, for vanilla runs, for runs of the main game, we have to reject them if they are on Everest. So can I do tutorial for sub 30? I cannot, because I do not have sub 30, but there are many talented people out there who you can watch runs from. And that's another thing that I would recommend. If you have a goal time that you're shooting for, say you've already gotten sub hour and you're looking to get sub 50, go watch a run that's like a 45-minute run. Go watch a 40-minute run. See what strats those runners go for and what other runners don't go for. I think that that's a great way for you to look at and see, oh, I can really improve that run here. What time did they get in resort? Because it's like, you don't want to be comparing to the world record of like, a good summit for me is like a 9:05 or a 9:10. It's going to be different for every person and what goal you're going for. And we also have spreadsheets in the Celeste Discord that say, like, if you're aiming for this time, you should go for this in this chapter, this in that chapter, So that's, that would be something to look at runs of the goal time that you're shooting for. How long does it take to learn the game? That's a great question. So for me, when I was learning this game, I was learning it to race against my brother. We were trying to be the first to beat sub 50 was me and his goal. It probably took me about a month to actually go through each of the chapters, go through the any percent tutorial and learn room by room. And that's when I got my sub 50. But past that, to get my 32, I've been running this game for like a year and a half, but I also run a lot of different games. So it depends how much time you're practicing, how aggressive strats you go for, but I would say you have the ability to learn this entire run in like a handful of weeks. If you really want to grind it out, you could probably learn like a chapter a day, but your mileage may vary. You don't want to rush it. Take your time. You want to enjoy the process, and stuff like that. So yeah, I recommend like go chapter by chapter. Where do you find those spreadsheets again? You can find those spreadsheets in the Celeste Discord, which I will post again. I have the link right here. And, it has... Oh, here's this person's 34. They got a 150 old site. They got this mirror temple. Let me shoot for those things. And the really cool thing that you can see in the journal is it has speedrun records. So, like, let me go to my main file and I'll show you all, like, what are my on-stream records for each chapter, for example. Like, here we go. Like, I've cleared old site in city faster than on this computer. This is just stream practice, but like, you can kind of see for a 928 summit on here, a 631 reflection. I run 5B, so I have a 3015B on this computer, for example, and it can be really fun to see these times cut down over and over again. Like, I have a sub 5 resort, I have a sub 3 ridge, stuff like that. So really, really nice. So yeah, this is if you were gonna take this and you would have to exclude core, because core is not in any percent. But I have a sub 20 farewell on this computer. That's pretty cool. And so yeah, if your chapter 6B time is still 70 plus steps, should I be doing that skip? Currently trying for sub 45. So I would definitely not recommend chapter 6 at that point. I would only really recommend chapter 6 if you're looking like in the under 33, 32, and you never have to switch to 6B if you don't want to. 5B, I would recommend to pretty much anyone looking for sub 45 or sub 40. So Temple B is very, very worth it. And I also recommend practice reflection and summit the most for any percent. And if you were to ask me, what if I don't want to play any percent, which is me most of the time, there are some other really amazing chapters and categories. So I love Farewell. Farewell is kind of a run on its own. You start out, like my first goal for Farewell was sub 30. I'm now going for like an 18 in Farewell. The world record's a 14 or a 13, I think. So and once you learn Farewell, you can do a category called True Ending, where you play to Farewell from a fresh file. I have a sub hour in that. That was my goal at the beginning of the year, and I'm really happy with that time, and I love Farewell. There's also All Red Berries, which is an amazing, amazing category. You get to see much more of the game, much more of the rooms in the game. That's an extremely fun category. So there's really something for everyone. Do you like the seasides? You can play all seasides, you know, stuff like that. So there's lots of amazing categories you can play. And you can also play stuff like bingo, which I'm going to shout that out again. We're going to play Celeste bingo tomorrow on Hotfix. Starting at 4, we're going to see some co-op bingo if you're interested in watching some people who are really good at Celeste do some kind of interesting routing and working together. So you have an actual question. What is Benny Percent? So Benny Percent is a category extension where you grab the cassette in the A side and then play the B side. Very fun category. It's also really nice to up your B side confidence for categories such as like all hearts and all chapters. So no, yeah, I think 5B is extremely worth learning, extremely worthwhile. 6B is useful in All Red Berries and can be useful in any percent, but I don't think you need it for a while. So 6B is really, really hard. Yeah, I've also played, there's also fun let me show you all some variant categories also that are really fun. So let me turn on variant mode. So once you've once you've beaten the seasides, you unlock variants. Let me show you some funny ones. These are also, there's a handful on the leaderboard. I recently did a run of grabless ARB, so you can turn off grabbing. So you're not allowed to grab anymore. And there's categories for grabless any percent and grabless all red berries, which is very fun. There are other variants such as invisible, where when you're moving, you can't see where Madeline is.
God.
That's really, really wild.
Oh no.
Where is she? No. I have a sub hour invisible, but there's people who have really, really good I don't even know where I am. Yeah, so that one's funny.
Please no.
You can play the game backwards. This is really disorienting for someone who has played 1,500 hours of this game to do it your controls are not inverted, but the game is inverted, and that's really wild. These are all categories that are on our category extension board. So those are really fun. Highly recommend.
I assume a lot of those are going to be like after you have a basic grasp on the game.
Yes, absolutely. Once you learn, but there's like there's so much in Celeste.
Yeah,
besides
for sure.
Any percent. Any percent is an amazing place to start, and I highly recommend like learning it and doing it and getting comfortable. But then the mountain is your oyster. You know, there's so much to do.
There's a lot of things to keep it fresh and keep the game entertaining for new players and veteran players.
Exactly, and there's also custom maps. I'm a custom map enjoyer. I ran Glyph at SGDQ. That was an amazing experience. You know, I've submitted another map into the jungle to Frame Fatales, which I'm super excited about. So yeah. Important things for submissions. I wanted to talk about that. So when you are beating a chapter, say you're doing, you know, let me turn off variants. Well, I'm also on Everest, so I guess this isn't a good example. But basically, when you're submitting a run, you want to show the end screen. If you're doing, say you're running City, right? You should absolutely, when in your recording, please show this end screen. And especially true for full game categories, please show the end screen of Summit. And if you even want to go to the pie screen, that would be really, really wonderful for verification purposes. You need to be showing the version number, which is in the bottom right. You need to be showing the chapter time or have live split constantly running on the stream for it to be submittable. And you need to not have Everest. So you see that little square in the middle, that is telling the verifiers, hey, this person has Everest on. So be sure to be running in Vanilla Celeste if you want to be on the leaderboard. And there are individual level categories and full game categories. Also submit your runs. You know, don't be like, oh, this run isn't good enough. You are good enough. Please submit. We want you to. There are plenty of runs that come in, and we are so excited that this community has continued growing. I think we have over 2,500 any percent runs. Like, let's get to 3,000. That would make me happy. And
So,
it's amazing.
as somebody who
It's ridiculous.
has done that, I'm not going to submit my run. Submit your run, please.
Submit your runs, church. Do it.
It's not to Celeste. It's to a different leaderboard.
I know, but in general, as a verifier, we want you to.
Skate for a living was on my back about it for literal months.
Yes. Yeah. Do it. It's a good resource for other people to be able to look at. Yeah, and yep, so don't cover up the version number, don't cover up the timer. There are the most important thing is, for whatever category you're going to run, please read the rules first. And that will tell you everything you need to know. We have images of where you're not supposed to cover on the screen. We don't want to reject your runs, but we want it to be as fair as possible between players. And also, if you're playing on a different console, that's totally fine. You don't need to run this on PC. There's plenty of good console players, so it's recommended that you get the game on PC if you don't have it, if you plan on running this long term, but that's not a requirement. You'll just tell us, hey, I'm running on Xbox, hey, I'm running on Switch, and that's so cool. Is there a minimum time to be accepted? Absolutely not. Nope. If you sat down and completed a run in one sitting and you have the recording, then that's good. That's good enough for us. So that is good enough for us. I've done categories that's taken me a really long time, because it was my first go at it, but I wanted it to be on the boards. It's important to me, and that's totally good. So no worries. And let me check my notes, make sure I've, set everything. When you're submitting times, please just submit the in-game time. The in-game time is the only thing we care about. And you also can rest in between chapters. So like, I'm playing City, and I'm gonna take a little bit of a break before Old Set. I'm gonna talk to stream. I'm gonna get some water. Don't alt tab out of the game. Please keep the game running. Keep the audio running. But you can take breaks in between chapters as long as they're not like, oh, I need to go on an errand for a half hour. Please don't do that. But time in between runs, like in between chapters, does not count against you. If you need to take a handbrake, if you need to take a breather, if you just had a rough 5B and you don't want to jump into reflection yet, do not worry about that. You can, it's just the time that you're in the chapter that matters. So, yeah. If you sat down and took 19 hours for your first run, I would accept it. I would do it. I'll be the one to watch it, so none of the other verifiers have to do it. But yeah, let me put all the things I've been talking about in the chat one last time. So we got Everest, we got Speedrun Tool, we got the Celeste Discord, the any percent tutorial playlists. Those are all really amazing. Resources, there's more resources in the Celeste Discord, and you can also just talk to people. We have a speedrun help channel, and also you can talk to me. I'm happy to talk. I love helping people with Celeste. If you want to hang out on my stream, I play a lot of Celeste during the week and a lot of Celeste mods. Would love to chat and hear about your progress. That's how I got into this. I was watching other Celeste speedrunners, other Celeste streamers, and I fell in love with this game and this community.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the people in the Celeste community are very nice and friendly and want to help out new players because they want more people running their game. Because the bigger the community is, the more fun it is to run a game, basically. You can have fun with smaller games, but having more people just increases the fun you can have with the game so much more. You can have community races, bingos, stuff like that. You can do so much things with more people, and I've definitely gotten the feeling from a lot of the Celeste runners that everybody is excited to help out new runners.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed this kind of crash course Celeste any percent tutorial. There are plenty of people who are here to help. I wouldn't be here without those people, and I want to pass it forward to new people coming into the community. So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything from me in terms of the tutorial itself. So thank you, Church, for having me. This was really
absolutely
fun.
Thanks for coming on. You did really well. This was a fantastic tutorial.
Thank you. I may not be the fastest runner out there, but I'm a teacher in real life, not on the internet. And it's something I'm really passionate about, helping other people and teaching other people. So if you missed this, don't worry. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be uploaded. Catch the VOD. Also, you know, I stream 4 days a week. I stream both Celeste and Super Mario World, twitch.tv/FrozenFlygon. I would love to see you there if you enjoyed this. I love meeting new people and talking about Celeste. I care about it a lot. And if you want to see more Celeste, tomorrow here on Hotfix for Celeste Bingo, 4 p.m. Eastern. And also, I am one of the event admins for Frame Fatales, and our run and volunteer submissions are open now. If you have Twitter, you can head on over to the Frame Fatales Twitter, or you can go to gamesdonequick.com/framefatales and get information about Frost, which is happening in February. And we would love to work with you there as either a runner or a volunteer. I got all my runs submitted, and I'm excited to be at the studio. It's gonna be a great time. So if you have any questions about FF, you can also, you know, hit me up. Or if you're a woman in the community and you want to join our server, we would love to have you there as well. And I think that's pretty much everything from me.
Thank you so much, Frozen. I was excited to have you on. You are you're a really great teacher. You are very vibrant and you're very excited. I can't words right now. You get very excited about things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
It would be a lot better if I could remember any words. It's been a long week.
No, it's okay.
It's been a long week. Thank you so much. You were very thorough. I feel like you explained a lot of things very carefully and made it very easy to understand. A lot of what I get, and I mean, this is gonna be a theme going forward for every show I'm gonna have, but a lot of it is breaking it down into digestible chunks for you to practice and getting the practice down, starting with the basics. You know, a lot of the bosses were like, this is something you want to be comfortable with, figure out what's comfortable for you and take it from there. Like, don't worry about what's fastest, don't worry about anything, just what makes it comfortable for you to get through. Because again, even world record players, they didn't start with the world record strats. They started with the building blocks. They got familiar with everything, they practiced and all that stuff, and then eventually over time they got to, you know, whatever the world record is for this game or any other game. It's not specific to Celeste or any of the other games I've shown. It's every speedrun.
Start small, you know. I think it's important to set goals for yourself in terms of like, I'm gonna practice this much, I'm going to put this much time into it. Don't set like a number, you know, like I need to get this by this. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Just enjoy the process and enjoy getting better at the game. It's amazing looking back, being like, wow, you know, my first run was 2 hours and now I've come this far, and that's an amazing feeling with any speed game.
Yeah, for sure. And so one thing I've noticed just over all of the games I've speedrun is that just being familiar with the route saves so much time. Like, a lot of time you don't even realize it's saving, because when you're doing your first runs, there's a lot of what am I supposed to do here? Oh right, I remember, or stuff like that, where you're understandably fumbling with things. But once you've got into, you know, I don't know, I'm gonna make up a number here, let's say 10 hours of practicing, and you've done a few runs, like all of a sudden, you know, your 5th, 6th, 7th run, you're just gonna start saving time because you've been through the motion so much. So a lot of speed running is just taking the time to learn the building blocks, and everything like else will come naturally.
Absolutely. And like, even if you're not getting PBs every run, literally every hour you're playing whatever game you choose to speedrun, you're improving, and that's beautiful.
But I think that's everything I have for this. Thank you so much again.
Yes, so fun.
Frozen.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here while we look for a raid target. Just before we go to our break, I would like to remind everybody a few things. Frost Fatale's game and volunteer submissions are open from, I keep saying from now, it's until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow.
Yeah, until tomorrow. From now until tomorrow. You can go to Games Done Quick.
Right now!
Right.
Buy one, get one free! Brave Natal submissions, go!
So yeah, they're open until tomorrow. You can go gamesdonequick.com for more information on that. If you're tuning in now right at the end, I know I've had a lot of people asking during the show. If you've missed out on any of the GDQ Hotfix shows, you can go to youtube.com/gamesdonequick. We have an archive of all of our past shows, both main events and hotfixes. And then also, we have a new YouTube channel. It's called GDQ Sum of Best Segment. Sum is spelled S-U-M. That is a highlight channel with regular uploads, just like our main channel, and it's going to have highlight videos of all of our main hotfix shows as well as events. And then if you're over on YouTube watching this right now, you can feel free to come join us over at twitch.tv/gamesdonequick. We do have shows pretty much every day at this point, and most of them are going to be starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. And I would like to remind everybody that all of these hotfixes that you're seeing, they are funded in part due to your support, your subscriptions bits. So if you like what you're seeing, if you want to see more future shows, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out a lot. And the AGDQ 2022 schedule is out, so you can check that out at gamesdonequick.com/schedule. We do have 2 shows on tomorrow. So starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, we've got PB Precipice, which is going to be showing off Metroid Dread attempts. And then we've got It's Dangerous to Go Alone with Frozen Flygon, and that is going to be showing off Celeste Bingo. So you can...
That sounds like fun.
It sounds like fun, yeah.
I'm a little biased, but I think that will be cool.
You should definitely check it out if you liked any of the Celeste today, or if you enjoyed anything from Frozen. Frozen's a great person. I think you should check it out. Her show is amazing. Besides that, we are going to take our quick little break here while we look for a raid target, and then if you could please just stick around and help us cheer out some other speedrunners on afterwards, that would be really appreciated. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks for dropping by, and we'll see you on Thanksgiving for the next episode.